Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is Attack on Prime in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 36, Experiments Part 2. Megatron snuck back into the Marley compound in his hollow form. He climbed up the wall and through an open window before moving down the hall to sneak back into his room. The one downside about the hollow form was that it couldn't be reactivated in a place that he cannot visually see. So he would have to activate the hollow form outside the compound and then go back to his room. Megatron picked the lock to his room and opened it before slumping down to the floor. By the pits, he hated this. Megatron then grabbed the bandage he left abandoned before deactivating the hollow form last night and tied it once again. He hated having to do this, but if it kept the illusion that he was human, so be it. The Titan finished tying it before laying down on the floor. He turned his attention to the bed and growled. Those things were just too soft, it felt so uncomfortable. He looked up at the ceiling before closing his eyes in thought. He had the day off, but he couldn't use it to give weekly updates to Paradise. At least not at the moment, so, what should he even do in this situation? Megatron reached under the bed and pulled out his bag. He stuck his hand in there and pulled out some cash. He remembered seeing a bookstore in Liberio. He could go there and buy some in order to learn more about Marley. Megatron groaned in irritation as he sat up. He was going to need an escort. The Titan grabbed the staff and stood up, making sure to continue pretending to be injured. He did what? Falco stuttered in shock. He managed to hold his own against the mutated Titan, Porco repeated, barely, according to the dirt from some of the commanders I overheard. They made me and Colt along with a few others clean up the mess. That's so cool. Gabby exclaimed with excitement. I've never heard of someone holding their own against a Titan, Zofia admitted. We have to ask him about it. Gabby exclaimed, where is he? Falco noticed Matthew walking out of the compound with a staff in hand and Reiner and Pike by his side. Leaving? Falco questioned as they all saw the three leave the compound. Megatron grumbled to himself as Reiner and Pike accompanied him to the bookshop. This was completely ridiculous. He had to be accompanied because Magath didn't trust him. And it looked like it would be this way for a while. Cheer up, Matthew, Pike smiled as he noticed his irritation, at the very least you have days off. This is not a day off. Megatron exclaimed, this isn't even a fucking escort. The two of you are making sure I don't escape. I'm sorry that we have to do this, Reiner apologized. Megatron took a deep breath and sighed. Whatever. I just want to go to the bookshop and back to the compound I call my prison. Megatron noticed the glares directed at the trio, but he realized they were more focused on Reiner and Pike. I also could have asked Marley and soldiers to take me. It's just a quick walk, Pike reassured. Megatron noticed someone behind him grabbing an empty bottle and getting ready to throw it at an unfocused Reiner. He continued on without suspicion as the person threw it. Megatron casually caught the bottle before it hit Reiner. He then tossed it back in the direction of the human, hearing it hit the ground and someone yelling. What was that? Pike asked as she and Reiner looked back. Megatron looked back and saw two men looking at him in shock. Beats me. Pike and Reiner continued walking while Megatron gave a sadistic smile, showing his fangs. Megatron felt satisfaction as the two men ran off before he continued walking. The Titan then looked down at Reiner, who just seemed out of it. He knew that Reiner was on the island before he arrived. The problem was that when he infiltrated the walls, he ended up getting attached to the enemy, and now Megatron was certain Reiner didn't believe Marleyan ideology anymore. Meanwhile, Pike had no connection to the island. She had no break from the hate and discrimination like Reiner did. She may seem cheery, but the girl was more attentive to her surrounding than Reiner was. We're here, Pike informed as the three arrived at the bookshop, we'll be waiting outside for you. The store owner probably won't let us in. Just make sure not to sneak out in back or we'll have to hunt you down. Fair, Megatron responded as he counted the cash he had, is there anything you two want in particular? Pike and Reiner were shocked by the question. Why you want to get us a book? Reiner asked in disbelief. I don't think our superior. I'm the one buying it, Megatron interrupted Pike, if anything, I can hold on to it until we head back to base and give it to you when you head back to the internment zone. But, There must be something you want, Megatron tempted. Get the simple things first. Find out their interests, gain their trust. Well, I would like the most recent fantasy novel, Pike admitted, or just, any really. And you? Megatron turned to Reiner. Reiner trailed off. I'm not going to stand out here all day, Megatron said. A cookbook? Reiner asked. Weird one, but fine, Megatron shrugged before walking into the store. Megatron noted that the place was rather small, even by human standards. Of course, nothing could compare to the grandeur of the Iacon Hall of Records. Megatron looked back at the money in his bag. There was enough for 5 books. 3 for himself, 2 for Reiner and Pike. Where's the most recent fantasy novel? Megatron asked the clerk. The clerk pointed to his left to a shelf of books labeled novels. Megatron walked over and grabbed the most recent one before finding a cookbook and grabbing it. Megatron browsed through the non-fiction section and grumbled. This place was so disorganized. He managed to find 2 books on Marley's Law and History. He flipped through each book to see the information. It looked like it was enough to understand the basics. Megatron then scanned the shelves once more, looking for one more book he could read for the time being. Megatron stopped and noticed one book that shouldn't have caught his eye but did. Discoveries of the Ocean. Megatron scoffed at the idea. The ocean was a dark and cold abyss. A desolate pit if he ever saw one. But seeing the ocean would mean so much to me, Armin declared with a smile, a vast place of water that takes up most of the planet. Full of salt, the merchants can't even touch it. You can't get something like that inside the wall, and talking about the outside is considered taboo for us. But if I get to see it at least once with Eren and Mikasa, that would mean everything to me. Megatron took one last look at the book before grabbing it off the shelf. There had to be more than just salt water. Pike was humming to herself while Reiner kept his gaze to the ground. They patiently waited for Matthew to finish shopping. They knew they had to ensure Matthew wouldn't escape, but from what they examined on the outside of the building, the windows were small and high up. The only way for Matthew to escape was through the front door. Reiner, Pike began, are you still worried about Berthold? Of course I am, Reiner answered, he and Annie are hurt because of me. Annie does appear to be fine, Pike noted, whatever is inside of her isn't killing her. Not like what's within Berthold. If I wasn't such an idiot, none of this would have even happened, Reiner proclaimed, all 4 of us would be back. Marcel wouldn't be dead because of me. Marcel is dead because of the Flying Titan, Pike proclaimed, not because of you. Reiner wanted to retort. He wanted to say that wasn't the case, but Matthew exited out of the store before he could say anything else. I'll give the books to you 2 later, Matthew told them. Why, you really bought them? Reiner stuttered in surprise. Matthew pulled out his bag and showed Reiner the cookbook. Let's keep this between us so that idiot Magath doesn't find out. Pike and Reiner stared at Matthew in surprise before following him back to the base. Paradise. Hanji stared at the liquefied energon in awe and excitement. I would advise you not to touch it, Optimus informed as he began tampering with some other tools to get them to work. It's in a glass container. Hanji exclaimed. Optimus gave her a disapproving look, causing the commander to groan in defeat. Fine, Hanji drawled out before noticing the device Optimus was trying to repair. What's that for? If I can get it to work, it would allow us to track energon more efficiently, Optimus explained. We need energon now more than ever. If we can find enough energon deposits without leaving the island, we can use it to power your weapons. But didn't you find that cave of energon without it? Hanji recalled. It was a rather short frequency, Optimus admitted. This will allow more accuracy and farther distance. Well, we didn't take much out of that cave you showed me when you first got here, Hanji recalled. We can go back there. We could also ask the merchant's kid where his dad found that other energon. Oh. Is there a chance you can use that to find another Cybertronian ship? Maybe one with better technology. That would only work if the ship has emitted an emergency frequency of its own, Optimus explained. Without it, it would be much harder to locate. It would also depend if there was more on the island, but I highly doubt that. Do you think that Marley might find Cybertronian technology? Hanji asked, They have a piece of Megatron, they might be able to find it and determine that it's not from this world. They do not have complete knowledge of Cybertron, Optimus reminded. They assume Megatron arrived on this world through his alt mode, but they are unsure about other Cybertronian modes of transportation. So at the moment, we're in the clear, Hanji assumed. Hopefully we can reach Marley's equivalent of military might before they perfect the mutated Titans. Let us hope, Optimus agreed. When exactly will you give the books to us? Pike asked as they arrived back at the compound. Is there a way you can take it back without raising suspicion? Megatron asked. I'm not sure if that's considered illegal or not. The moment Megatron stepped into the compound, he was met with the faces of Gabby, Zofia, and Falco. Gabby was the one who was super eager to see him, while Zofia and Falco looked like they were dragged to see him. Did you really take down a Titan by yourself? Gabby asked with excitement. Megatron was startled by the girl's automatic question. What? Word traveled fast about what you did yesterday, Pike explained. Megatron rubbed his temple in irritation. I didn't really take it down. Jaeger did the killing blow, so go talk to him about it. But you still fought it off. Gabby exclaimed, how did you do it? I'm interested in knowing that answer too, Zofia admitted. No, I'm going back to my room, Megatron told them. But you're supposed to train us, Gabby retorted. Today is my day off and I'm trying to rest my leg, Megatron shot back as he pointed to his leg, so back off. But I said no, Megatron pressed, not wanting to deal with this situation. Please. Gabby pleaded, can you still teach us? Gabby, that's enough, Reiner told her. Reiner. Hey, you bastard, someone shouted. Oh god damn it, Megatron groaned. The Eldians turned to see three men walking towards them. Falco quickly hid behind Pike, recognizing the three men as the one who were picking on him and his brother. The one Megatron saved him from. We've got a bone to pick with you, the first man shouted, defending Eldian devils and breaking my hand. Come and face us. Sir, that is not necessary. Shut up, devil, the second one shouted, we don't care if you're an honorary Marleyan, you're just a devil, and will always be one. So stay out of this. There must be a better way to settle this, Pike reasoned. Stay out of our way, the third one ordered. Megatron began laughing in anger, earning the attention of everyone there. Megatron turned to reveal his gritted teeth and frustrated eyes. I just want one day to myself, Megatron began, one where I can relax, rest, read a stupid book. Instead it's Matthew, do this. Matthew, do that. You're just a commoner. Oh please, train us. Megatron took off his bag and shoved into Reiner's chest. You want to fight? Fine. You want a lesson? Fine. First note, intimidation. Megatron rolled up his sleeves to reveal all the scars on his arms. He had the hollow form material, so he could take off the jacket or it would disappear once it stopped touching him. Most of my scars are from illegal death matches, Megatron hissed at the three, where I fought animals twice my size and others with much more skill. The kids and Reiner looked horrified at the scars while Pike looked on in sympathy. The third man immediately took steps back away from Megatron. Megatron noticed the other two unnerved, but still standing. Intimidation usually scares off the weakest opponents, Megatron continued, however if your opponent is stupid enough to still be here. Hey, the first one shouted. Oh, did I touch a nerve? Megatron questioned, I mean I thought you were already somebody's bitch, but if that's not the case. The second one threw a punch at Megatron and hit him in the face, but Megatron was barely fazed by the attack. Which leads to the second and third note, Megatron continued, the second, angering your opponent. Your opponent feels inferior, and it might be extremely present. It might not work for every opponent, but if so, use it. Angry opponents are careless opponents. Careless opponents are dead ones. The second one quickly backed off, rubbing his hand in the process from the pain. The first and final one trembled in fear as Megatron loomed over him. Third note, letting your enemy know your strength, Megatron finished, how little or how small all depends on you. If you show your strength too early, your opponent will know how to counteract it. However, if you know you can beat your opponent, showing off some of your strength and skill will scare them off, or get the message across that you should not be messed with. A side note, if cheap tactics lead to victory, use it. But why? Gabby questioned. Megatron stepped on the last man's ankle, breaking it. He screamed in pain as he fell to the ground. Virtue means nothing in war, Megatron answered. Your opponent doesn't care about fighting fair. They just want to live. Megatron turned his attention back to the three. So, do you want to live? Megatron was satisfied when the three ran off. Megatron took his bag from Reiner and stormed off into his room. Calvi walked down the steps of the Marleyan Research Center before opening two large doors. He looked on to see scientists trying their best to analyze and possibly break down the part of the flying titan Annie Leonhardt managed to retrieve. He noticed many frustrated scientists, complaining and struggling to try and break it apart for better analysis. Sir, the head scientist saluted, I wasn't expecting you for another week. Report, Calvi ordered. This thing is practically unbreakable, the head scientist exclaimed in anger. We've tried everything to break it down and it barely manages a dent. The team is going mad from the lack of progress. One of the scientists began beating the thorn with a hammer before collapsing on the ground in frustration and sadness. I see, Calvi said, feeling sympathy for the scientists. While it would be great to get more of this for technological advancements, none of our weapons works, the head scientist explained. If we could break this down, this would prove to be great armor, Calvi proclaimed. Another issue is that there's not enough, the head scientist reminded. This thorn is the only piece of these titans we have. The only other piece of this metal that exists on this world is in the hands of those island devils. I doubt the devils would get very far with this, Calvi proclaimed. They might, the head scientist admitted. Care to repeat that? Calvi demanded in anger. The devils have the intelligent titans, the head scientist reminded. Whatever those devils are telling them, they're willing to help them succeed. These titans are the ones that know the ability of this metal. The titans have the knowledge and we don't. Despite having this, we don't know where to look for more. If we had these titans, then they might know where to look, Calvi surmised. Even then, reports stated that the metal titan doesn't know how it arrived on our world, the head scientist recalled, and the flying titan came here on its own without a ship. At least that's what the assumption is. Perhaps we should use Annie Leonhardt, Calvi suggested. She was the one who got this in the first place. The head scientist seemed hesitant at the thought. We can try. Hopefully she'll be cooperative. She must. If she isn't, she will lose her life, Calvi declared. Bring Annie Leonhardt here. I will bring Commander Magath. He will be more persuasive to Annie than me. Falco looked at the door to Matthew's room. He never really got the chance to explain himself to Matthew, but after what happened with those three men, he might have to. The last thing he wants is for him and his family to be sent to Paradise, or the front lines as titans. Falco took a deep breath before knocking on the door. When he heard nothing, he knocked on the door again. Falco grew worried when he heard footsteps and Matthew opening the door with an irritated look. I told you to leave me, eh? Matthew stopped when he noticed Falco in front of him. He raised an eyebrow in confusion as Falco's hands were shaking. You're usually the least of my worries, Matthew remarked as he crossed his arms. If this is a ploy by your friend to get me to talk about what happened, I'm shutting the door. Falco trailed off. My brother didn't do anything wrong. What? Matthew raised an eyebrow. What happened that day, when you saved us? Falco continued, it was my fault. Not Colt's. I ran into someone by accident. Please don't put him in jail or hurt him or. I have been here for 2 months. Matthew exclaimed, why the hell are you bringing this up now? I didn't know that you were Marley military, Falco stuttered. Matthew rubbed the side of his head in irritation. I'm not part of Marley military. I'm a prisoner, just like you. What? Falco stuttered. I decided to help you, turns out it was breaking the law, Matthew explained. Your commander gave me an ultimatum, train you or be thrown in jail. But, you're still here because of me, Falco proclaimed, because I was stupid. Matthew sighed before sitting down on the ground so that he was at height level with Falco. Falco, right. Falco was surprised by the man addressing him by name, but nodded his head regardless. That whole thing was my choice, Matthew proclaimed. If I knew I'd end up losing my freedom, maybe I would have reconsidered. But here I am. But, I'm an Eldian, Falco reminded. I don't have the same rights as you do. Honestly, don't care, Matthew declared. When you've lived a life like mine, you don't care for that crap. You care for your brother. There's nothing wrong with that. Thank you for helping us out that day, Falco said. If there's anything you need me to do. Let me read, Matthew interrupted as he stood up, and tell your friends if they come and bother me today that I will not be kind to them tomorrow. Yes, sir, Falco saluted as he ran off. Megatron shut the door before returning the floor and lying down. Megatron reached for the book on Marleyan law, but his eyes drifted to the book about the ocean. Megatron picked up the ocean book and flipped it to the first page. Magath walked behind Commander Calvi to the room with the Titan's thorn. Seeing that thing always made him sick to his stomach. It reminded him of how powerless they were. It reminded him of how the flying Titan mocked Marleyan might like it had a right. Magath looked behind him to see Annie forcefully pulled and shoved into the room by two other scientists. She looked disheveled and dead inside. Her hair wasn't in a bun and her clothes looked worn for wear. The arm that was cut off prior to the new serum still had blue veins. Her eyes were still that bright blue, but despite this, she looked so tired and sad. Annie Leonhardt, Calvi began as he walked up to her, the scientists require your assistance. They have been unable to break a piece of the flying Titan you took 6 months ago. We need you to use your power in order to dissect this. Annie didn't respond right away. She looked down at her butchered arm and grimaced. I can't, sir, Annie told him. That is an excuse, Calvi hissed, and we do not accept excuses from Eldians. You have given your life to fight for this country. Have you not? Yes. Then you will use your power to destroy this thorn, Calvi ordered. I do not know how, Annie reasoned. Then figure it out, Calvi ordered. Soldier, what happened that led to you cutting off the flying Titan's thorn? Magath asked. I was fighting him, Annie began. He beat me. What else? Magath pressed. The commanders noticed Annie balling her fists in anger, but her eyes showed fear and panic. Annie tried to force out. He did what? Calvi demanded. He threatened my father, Annie forced out, feeling bile in her throat. He knows about my father. He knows about Liberio. He said he would tell him that he killed me before ending his own life. What did you feel during that time? Magath asked. Fear, desperation, anger, Annie listed. I was terrified. He will come here because of you, Calvi swore. Sir, Magath warned. He will kill us all because of your arrogance, Calvi continued, you pathetic devil. You've doomed us all. Annie felt crystals forming at her feet and on her fists. Her anger and fear continued to boil over as her commander continued to berate her. Her father was going to die because of her. Everyone was going to die because of her. It was her fault. Crystals surrounded her hands and she screamed. This was all the flying Titan's fault. She rushed and raised her hand before sinking them into the thorn. She tore through it in anger, leaving 5 claw marks behind. Small pieces of the metal fell to the floor, and Calvi picked one of them up and examined it. Make sure to analyze this, Calvi ordered as he passed it to the head scientist. Yes, sir, he responded as he took the piece. Annie collapsed on the floor and the crystal broke off her body. Some of the scientists came to collect it, and Annie remained unresponsive. Leonhardt, Calvi began. Berthold, Annie spoke, may I see Berthold? Please? I'm worried about him. Magath looked conflicted, but Calvi was uninterested. No, you cannot, Calvi answered. Please. Hoover is in no condition to have visitors, Calvi cut off before turning to 2 scientists, take her back to her cell. If you need her assistance again, then bring her back here. Magath could only watch as Annie was dragged from the thorn end to her cell. Why can't she see Berthold? Magath asked. Calvi grimaced. I'll show you. Later. Commander Calvi, I would strongly advise against this, the head scientist pleaded. Magath is responsible for the Eldian recruits, Calvi reminded, he must find out sooner or later. The three walked towards a mirror and the scientist grimaced. He placed his hand on the switch before turning to Magath. I hope you can stomach this, the head scientist said before flipping the switch to turn on the lights. Magath watched in horror as he saw Berthold. His arm was charred a dark purple. It looked like it was falling apart of the seams. Dark purple veins were spreading throughout his face. Part of his hair was falling out. He could see Berthold groaning in pain as his eyes flickered from brown to purple. Berthold looked like he was slowly dying. The power of the Titans lasts for 13 years, Magath began, why does it look like he's at his last? Why does he look so much worse? Whatever is in the Flying Titan, the head scientist explained, this, dark energon, has been slowly killing him. Administering the energon from Annie Leonhardt is no longer enough. It used to be able to slow it down until the initial injury, but now it only slows down the inevitable. The dark energon has clearly been more aggressive. Is it going to kill him? Magath asked. Judging by current evidence, most likely, the head scientist answered, but that's not all. The head scientists guided the two to the main lab. The head scientists then put on large, thick, hazard gloves before he pulled out two Petri dishes from an ice box. He placed it next to the microscope on the table. He then took one of them and removed the lid before placing it under the microscope. This is the sample we got from Annie Leonhardt, the head scientist said, take a look, and tell me what you see. Magath looked through the lens and saw Annie's sample. The blue seemed to coexist with the red blood cells. It worked together. The red blood cells did nothing to attack the blue cells. The blue cells did nothing to attack the red blood cells, but it shone in a way that overtook the red. It's working together, Magath noted. At least that's what we've surmised, the head scientist proclaimed, the energon doesn't have any intention on harming the host. But Berthold's sample tells a different story. Magath watched the scientist replace the Petri dish before examining it through the lens. Magath gasped at what he saw. The purple cells were unstable, amorphous, chaotic. It targeted and consumed the red blood cells until nothing was left. It's destructive, Magath spoke. We have no control over this dark energon, the head scientist declared, and it is very clear that this substance is harmful to Titan shifters. Imagine what it could do to humans. We have no means of control it. Commander Calvi, I would advise a complete halt on the experimentation of dark energon until we can control the regular one. Under normal circumstances, I would disagree, Calvi began, but the last thing that I want is for Marley to fall because of our hubris. Hold off until you get solid, successful results of the regular energon. Yes sir, the head scientist saluted. Sir, Magath began, will Berthold remain alive? For the time being, Calvi answered, if this dark energon progresses further in Berthold Hoover, I will consider choosing his next successor. Zeke was in his office when he noticed something go under the door. Zeke stood up and walked over to the door and picked up a sheet of paper he saw. He opened it to see Yelena's handwriting. Berthold Hoover may be fed to another successor. Persuade Commander Calvi to doing so. Accelerate the process. Chapter 37, Fear Part 1. Erwin opened the door to his home before picking up his bag of grocery. He walked inside and shut the door before walking over to his kitchen. He set the bag down on the countertop, and Kenny quickly snatched an apple from the bag. Been a while since I've had one of these, Kenny remarked before taking a bite. Erwin didn't respond as he took out the rest of the groceries. Kenny raised an eyebrow as he was munching on another bite. You're gonna cook? Kenny asked. Is that a problem? Erwin asked. Just doesn't seem like you can handle it, Kenny answered. I've been doing just fine for 4 months, Erwin reminded. Sure, whatever, Kenny shrugged. By the way, you got a gift left at the door. Erwin grew tense at the statement. Relax, I waited until they left, Kenny reassured, it was just some fancy wine. Pixis, Erwin realized, I didn't think he'd come all the way out here. If that's the case, I might as well leave, Kenny declared. Guess the one thing I didn't consider was your pals coming over for a chat. They don't usually come over, Erwin admitted. I haven't really seen them in the 4 months prior to Megatron coming here. Speaking of that asshole, it's been 5 months since we've last seen him, Kenny hissed. I thought this was supposed to be some espionage mission, but we've been doing nothing but sitting on our asses. They haven't come to the island yet, Erwin reminded, but it's only a matter of time before they do. Kenny sighed in agreement as he finished his apple. Surprised you didn't leave, Erwin admitted, and also that you haven't tried to kill me. Well, you did break me out, so oh yeah, Kenny shrugged. Also if I killed you, I'd have more to worry about than that buckethead. I'm already a wanted fugitive. Erwin didn't respond to that as he turned on the fire. Kenny was referring to Levi, he knew that. But he also knew it wasn't wise to bring it up. Just because killing MPs was his original profession, didn't mean that he wouldn't have a problem with killing the Survey Corps. He just hoped that the Merlians would arrive soon so that he wouldn't be in such an awkward situation with the Ripper. Aaron winced as a nurse drew blood from him. The moment she finished, the wound regenerated in an instant. Hanji marveled over the healed wound before taking the syringe from the nurse's hand. This is wonderful, Hanji smiled as she placed some blood on a petri dish. Regeneration time is in an instant. Hanji handed the syringe back to the irritated nurse before examining his blood sample. Your blood is coexisting with the Energon. It's amazing. Yeah, Aaron mumbled, amazing. And according to Buckethead, Annie is still alive, so it doesn't seem that the lifespan will be shortened, Hanji added. Aaron grunted in response. Where's Optimus? I wanted to train with him. He's over at the Cybertronian ship, Hanji replied. He's trying to fix something that will allow to find other Energon deposits, maybe even another ship. Hanji then picked up a Cybertronian blade for the 3D gear and showed it to Aaron. We can make more of these with actual Cybertronian tools instead of our own. We have to heat this up to the point where the smoke can burn our faces off. It's so exciting. Yeah, Aaron said, can I go, right now? Oh, of course, Hanji answered, I'll call you over when I need something from you. Thank you, Aaron said as he stood up. Oh, by the way, Hanji began, did your hair grow? Aaron was startled by the question. What? Your hair, Hanji continued, it looks a little bit longer. Aaron touched his hair and pulled, noticing that it was starting to go past his neck. I guess it's because I don't use the 3D gear anymore, Aaron commented. Well, if you do want a haircut, say the word and I'll send you to a barber, Hanji proclaimed. Aaron nodded his head in understanding before walking back to the castle. Marley. Zeke knocked on Matthew's door and waited for the Titan to respond. Zeke watched as Matthew opened the door and glared at him. What? He hissed in his normal voice. I have an update on Berthold, Zeke explained, meet me in my office after training the warriors. That seemed to catch the Titan's interest, as his anger subsided to interest. Fine, I'll meet with you later, Matthew relented as he shut the door. Zeke sighed as he walked down the hall to the next war meeting. At first he feared Matthew, now he was pretty sure he was starting to hate him. The Survey Corps were talking with one another at lunch when Aaron sat down next to them. He was about to take a bite into his bread, but noticed all eyes were on him. What's wrong? Aaron asked. Nothing, Sasha answered, just, nothing. How are you feeling? Armin asked. I feel fine, Aaron answered. Have experiments been too much on you? Mikasa asked. Mikasa, I'm fine, Aaron insisted before taking a bite out of the bread. There was silence once more before Connie slammed his hands on the table. All right, that's it, Connie began. Aaron, your eyes are creepy. Connie. Armin scolded. Someone had to say it. Connie shouted, can't you just make it go away? I can't, Aaron answered, it's part of my body now, and I don't even know how to turn it off. Can't you get Prime to help you? Sasha pleaded. He's just as new to this as I am, Aaron admitted. Energon is not supposed to be in a human, and I've been able to survive for months. It's strange. Well, you've definitely become stranger by the day, Jean proclaimed. Those eyes make you look more freakish than ever. You're one to talk, horseface, Aaron hissed. Suicidal maniac, Jean shot back. Pompous bastard, Aaron growled. You wanna go? Gene demanded as he stood up. Believe me, I'd be happy to, Eren smirked as he stood up as well. His smirk disappeared when his friends were looking at him in fear. Eren noticed something out of the corner of his eyes and looked down to see blue veins in his arms. His hands began to tremble as he touched his face. Eren. I don't know what's happening, Eren began to panic, it can't be happening, not again. Eren, breathe, Mikasa pleaded as she put her hands on his shoulders. Get Hanji, Gene ordered. On it, Sasha said as she grabbed her bread and jumped from the table. Ymir sat down in Hanji's office as Commander Hanji fixed her papers. The Titan shifter crossed her arms as Hanji smiled. There a reason you called me here? Ymir demanded. Yes there is, and it's about our little new project, Hanji answered. About Eren's new eye color? Ymir questioned. It's what made the eye color, Hanji corrected, it was this energon serum that we got from Kenny Ackerman. He probably picked it off of Rod Rice. Point. Ymir demanded. We administered it to Eren, Hanji explained, so far there have been no negative effects in the past 5 months. According to Megatron's reports, Annie Leonhardt has had it for over 9 months total. So, we were thinking that if we get another energon serum, that we administer it to you. Ymir grew tense at the thought. Of your own volition, as to our agreement, Hanji reassured. I don't know, Ymir admitted, are you even sure that it's absolutely safe? Data shows that the serum works well with the Titan Shifter's systems, Hanji explained, regeneration time has been faster, and there hasn't been any known side effect of the serum. So far, Ymir said. Hanji sighed. I know you're worried, and I know that you don't want to do anything that would shorten your lifespan, but we are monitoring the situation. And we are trying to move as quickly as possible to stay as evenly matched with Marley as possible. They will administer the energon serum to the rest of the Titan shifters. If you do decide no, you will be putting yourself in an extremely vulnerable position. You could be captured and killed. That is the last thing that you and Historia want. Ymir tapped her arm with her finger. If there aren't any permanent long-term effects, I'll take the serum. Hanji nodded her head. Thank you, Ymir. The door opened and Sasha came bursting through the room. Something is wrong with Eren. Sasha exclaimed. Hanji got up from her seat and followed Sasha out the door. Ymir sighed to herself and stood up. Guess there is a side effect, Ymir sighed. Marley. Megatron opened the door to Zeke's office, and saw that Zeke was looking over some paperwork. You said you had an update regarding the holder of the Colossal Titan, Megatron recalled. I did, Zeke said, it's tentative, according to Yelena. What exactly is it, so we can accelerate the process? Megatron demanded. Whatever is in Berthold, is killing him, Zeke explained, the Dark Energon is slowly breaking him down and destroying him, like you said. Because of this, there has been speculation that his power will be transferred over. How exactly is the Dark Energon destroying him? Megatron asked. He's losing his hair, his arm is charred black, and he can't regenerate, Zeke listed, it's a slow process, but it is happening. They said they were going to transfer him over once all options are exerted. Persuade them to transfer that power, Megatron ordered, make them fear the prospect of losing the Colossal Titan in the middle of a war. What if it falls into enemy hands? Or worse, the devils of Paradise Island? Plant those thoughts in their mind and make them scared. Even if I do that, the decision is ultimately up to Commander Calvi, Zeke declared, he's a stubborn man. I might have his respect and trust, but it is hard to dissuade him. Do what you must, Megatron ordered, it's better for everyone if the current holder is killed. You do not want to deal with what happens next. What could be worse than you? Zeke challenged. You don't want to know, Megatron responded, out of curiosity, who would the Colossal Titan be given to? Porco Galliard, Zeke answered, he's currently the only warrior who's completed Marley's training. They'll give it to him so he can fight in the war. At the very least, I'll see less of him, since he'll be on the front lines, Megatron declared. Matthew, did the island say anything in regards to meeting with me and the Eldian restorationists? Zeke asked, because in regards to this current situation, I can persuade Commander Calvi to send ships to the island. Megatron thought it over. If you can cover for me for tonight, I can go to Paradise and get their answer. Zeke nodded his head in understanding. I'll be sure to do that. Later that night, Optimus arrived back to the castle and transformed back into his bipedal mode. He noticed Hanji in her outside workbench going over some notes. Commander Hanji, Optimus spoke. Hanji jolted before turning her attention to Optimus. Hey. Didn't expect you back? I thought you'd be camping out at the ship again. I thought I would return and help you with technological weapons, Optimus explained. Is something wrong? You seem distressed. Hanji ran her hand through her hair. I think there's been a side effect to the Energon serum. Is Eren? At the moment, fine, Hanji answered. Apparently an incident happened. It caused a reaction. The Energon spread throughout his arms. What happened to him afterward? Optimus asked. He's calmed down, Hanji answered. I've been speculating the Energon spread based on the same reason that his Titan powers activated. It might have been a strong will to fight Jean. Where is he now? Optimus asked. His room, I think, Hanji speculated. I need to go speak with him, Optimus proclaimed. Don't go rushing in, Hanji advised. I know you're worried, but the last thing we need right now is something to trigger another side effect. Optimus' mouth formed a thin line. I understand. The two heard an engine noise and looked up to see Megatron landing in front of them in his bipedal mode. I'm here with an update, Megatron informed. Finally! Hanji exclaimed as she stood up, I'll go get Queen Historia and Captain Levi. Later in the makeshift classroom. There are the Titan Shifters, the Generals, and the next generation of warriors, Megatron explained as he drew a diagram of the pecking order on the board. Hanji was furiously writing down the notes while Optimus and Levi listened intently. Meanwhile, Historia had her hands folded. The head of the entire military is Commander Calvi, Megatron began. There are a few other commanders that work with him, but I don't know their names. The head is the only one I've ever interacted with. Shouldn't you have tried to get their names? Levi demanded. It'd be too obvious if I asked the names of every commander in Marley military when the persona I created is someone who doesn't want to be there, Megatron explained. Besides, I seem to be on the commander's good graces, so it shouldn't matter that much. Wow, Buckethead, I'm impressed, Hanji mockingly smiled. You're actually behaving. I actually goaded one of the lieutenants to shoot me in the face for sparing an Eldian, but sure, I'm behaving, Megatron deadpanned. I'm surprised you haven't been caught, Historia admitted. Megatron hummed in response. As far as I know, Calvi is the only one who has complete access and regulation to the Energon experiment. The Beast Titan has access, but I doubt he has a say in the matter and is only there to control the Titan. But if we eliminate Commander Calvi, it could put their goals and objectives on hold. The next commander is Theo Magath, Megatron continued. He's in charge of the Eldian warriors, and we both hate each other. What did you do? Levi demanded. He thinks I'm an Eldian because I helped out Eldians and broke a Marleyan's hand, Megatron explained. Frankly, I just like aggravating him now just for the fun of it. How about you don't? Hanji advised, so you don't get caught. As long as I'm in Calvi's good graces and I uphold my end of the deal, Magath can't do a thing to me, Megatron proclaimed. Does Theo Magath pick and choose the warriors next in line to inherit the power of the Titans? Optimus asked. I can't give a solid answer, Megatron admitted. Magath is responsible for their training exercises, but choosing them might require a collective vote. Is there a chance you can influence the vote? Optimus asked. Not enough to raise suspicion, Megatron answered. Megatron circled the row of Titan Shifters. These are the current Titan Shifters and current threats. Reiner Braun is the armored Titan, but I haven't made much contact with him. He seems to be avoiding me for the time being. Does he suspect you? Hanji demanded. So far no, Megatron answered. Because of the lack of interaction, I haven't said anything to him that would warrant a relapse or suspicion. Meanwhile, Lionheart and the Colossal have been locked within the Titan research facility. I haven't seen them since I arrived. However, I suspect that they're using Lionheart to create more Energon-infected Titans. What about Berthold? Historia asked. Have they used the Dark Energon in him? No, Megatron answered. After the failure with regular Energon, they don't intend on using Dark Energon for the time being. I told the Beast Titan to create a reason for the Colossal Titan's power to be transferred so the Dark Energon won't be used. What about Porco and Pike? Hanji read from the board. Pike possesses the powers of the Cart Titan, Megatron answered. From what I've gathered, that power allows the user to remain within their Titan form for as long as they want. Porco is not a Titan shifter, but he is next in line to receive the powers of the Titans. On a related note, he wants to kill me. Everyone wants to kill you, Levi reminded. Well, this one wants to kill me based on a lie, Megatron explained. Apparently his brother was the Jaws Titan before the Queen's wife. In the official report, the Titan shifters proclaimed that I took Porco's brother instead of Ymir. They didn't want to take full responsibility, so they shifted the blame onto me to avoid the consequences. To be honest, I don't blame them, Hanji admitted. Their mission was a failure. Explaining they lost the Jaws Titan because of their mistake could lead to their deaths. It does provide perfect blackmail if one of them figures out my identity, Megatron smirked. What about the next generation of warriors? Optimus asked. Colt and Falco Grice, Gabby Braun, and Zofia, Megatron listed. Wait, Braun? Historia questioned. She's Reiner Braun's cousin, Megatron explained, an arrogant brat who fully believes in the Marleyan propaganda, and she's currently on the path of inheriting one of the Titans. Zofia is as well, but she is mostly quiet and reserved. What about the brothers? Levi asked. I'm sure that Colt and Falco do not believe in Marley propaganda and are only in the military for different reasons, not because they want to lay their lives down for the country. Megatron proclaimed, I've been ordered by Marley to train these to be the next set of warriors. You can't be that stupid to teach them your fighting style, Levi declared. Bold of you to assume I would do that, Megatron shot back. I've been teaching them my former third-in-command's fighting style. One which I'm not very good at. I wasn't aware you knew his fighting style, Optimus admitted in slight surprise. We trained together in the arena and picked up techniques from each other, Megatron explained. They should be able to make some progress, but not enough to take us on. And you haven't been caught by anyone else yet? Hanji asked. No, I have not, Megatron hissed. Kind of hard to believe considering your bombastic personality, Hanji retorted, and that's putting it lightly. You hold yourself to a higher standard, which is pretty noticeable, Historia recalled. Like I'd blow my cover like a fucking jackass, Megatron responded in his other vernacular. Holy shit, go back, Hanji stiffened while Levi was surprised, but didn't show it on his face. What is the status of Annie Leonhardt and Berthold Hoover? Optimus asked. Lionheart is currently still alive, Megatron answered. As for the other one, there is speculation that Dark Energon is slowly killing him. The military is most likely going to transfer his power over to Porco, since he is the only one who has completed Marley's military training. Wouldn't they say a little more concern about the loss of the Colossal Titan? Historia asked. Something tells me they want to continue studying the effects of Dark Energon, Megatron explained. I'm trying to find a way to sabotage it without raising suspicion. Is there any chance you can get closer to Annie and Berthold's experimentation? Hanji asked. I don't have that kind of clearance yet, Megatron responded. There is the situation of Zeke Yeager. He says he's close to convincing the commander to send a ship to the island. I doubt you'd be so accepting of the decision. Hanji groaned as she slammed her head on the table. We might have to. We've been struggling with technological advancements. Sure, that's a good idea. Levi asked her. All we have is a broken ship, Hanji groaned. We have to, as much as we shouldn't. I'll inform the Titan shifter about the situation, Megatron proclaimed. Hanji gave a thumbs up before slamming her hand back on the table. Meeting adjourned. Megatron deactivated the hollow form while Historia stood up. I'm going to my room, she informed. Good night. Historia left the room while Optimus was about to help Hanji up. I'll take care of her, Levi told him as he stood up. Go check up on Eren. He might need you right now. Optimus nodded his head. Thank you. Optimus exited the room while Levi kicked Hanji in her leg. Get up, he told her. Hanji groaned. I won't carry you, he told her. Hanji replied. Historia opened the door to her room and saw that Amir was reading a book on their bed. Amir glanced up at the door, but lifted her head when she recognized her wife. What are you doing? Historia asked. Waiting for you, Amir replied. Didn't have to, Historia reasoned as she climbed into bed. Amir set the book aside and wrapped her arms around her wife. Shitty day? Amir asked. Historia nodded her head. We might have to accept the aid from the Eldian restorationist. What about you? They want me to take that new Titan serum, Amir replied. Historia looked up at Amir. Is that safe? I don't know, Amir said. I said I wouldn't take until enough results said it was. That's good, Historia smiled. I don't want you getting hurt. Especially after what happened with Eren, Amir huffed. What happened with Eren? Historia asked in confusion. Something with the Energon, Amir answered. I didn't get the full details. I hope he's okay. Historia sighed. Annoying guy, but I hope he's okay too, Amir agreed. Historia kissed Amir and wrapped her arms around her. I'm glad today's over. Me too, Amir smiled. Optimus was facing the door to Eren's room. He raised his hand and knocked on the door, hoping that Eren wasn't asleep. The door opened, and Optimus saw Eren's now blue eyes staring back at him. You're back, Eren said as he stepped outside his room. I came to check on everyone and inform Hanji about the ship, Optimus explained. I did hear about what happened today. Optimus saw Eren looking down at his arms and rubbing them, almost as if he was trying to wipe something off of his arm. I don't know how it happened, Eren said. I didn't mean to. You did nothing wrong, Optimus proclaimed. None of us expected this to happen. Can you tell me what happened afterward? I don't know, Eren admitted. I remembered panicking and everyone else helping me calm down. When I did calm down, the Energon faded. Now I'm just worried it's going to happen again. Optimus took Eren's arm and examined it. There was nothing wrong with it, meaning that the Energon receded back into his spine and remained in his eyes. None of the medical tools worked on the ship. He couldn't scan for Eren's vitals and give him a proper diagnostic. He couldn't give him medical advice, but he could try to give him his own advice. Would you like to come with me to the neutral ship? Optimus asked. Eren was confused by the question, but nodded his head. He needed to be away from here anyway. Later. It's a lot scarier here at night time, Eren admitted from Optimus' shoulder as the Titan walked into the ship. I figured we would be able to discuss this situation in a more controlled setting, Optimus explained. I am sorry if the ship is making you feel uneasy. But why did you bring me here to talk? Eren asked. We could have just stayed within the wall to do that. Optimus opened the door to the main control room. I have been fixing the control panels, and I fixed something that I believe you would like to see. Eren raised an eyebrow at that as Optimus offered his servo. Eren jumped on and Optimus placed him on the keyboard. Could you cover your eyes? Optimus asked. Eren grew even more confused. You don't usually do this kind of stuff, I'm worried. I can assure you it is completely harmless, Optimus proclaimed. Eren noticed that Optimus looked rather eager at what he wanted to show him. Eren shrugged and covered his eyes. It's not like Optimus was going to hurt him. So what's it you want to show me? Eren asked as he heard Optimus move around. I have been working on repairing more of this ship in order to determine whether or not we could track Energon mines and other vessels on this world, Optimus explained. What I discovered was that this ship was not just a neutral ship, it was a ship that belonged to a few of the upperclassmen in the golden age of Cybertronian society. But I thought that everyone chose a side during the war, Eren recalled. Not everyone, Optimus continued as he flipped a switch to a certain power source. Some had self-preservations. And this ship, because of its make, has many beneficial features. One of which I know you will like. Eren heard something turn on and was tempted to open his eyes, but waited until given the word. You can open your eyes, Optimus told him. Eren removed his hands from his face and slowly opens his eyes. His eyes adjusted to the room and gasped as he found himself in a sea full of stars. Clouds of different colors like blue and purple surrounded his vision. Swirling vortexes flew over his head and worlds of different sizes and shapes flew past him. This is, Aaron trailed off in disbelief. The final frontier, Optimus answered with a small smile, at least, that is what the humans on Earth called it. This is amazing. Aaron exclaimed with a smile on his face, this is what the outside of this world looks like. Aaron touched one of the clouds in his proximity as saw it flow through his fingers like air. He let out a small laugh as the small stars continued to burn bright in the universe. He reached out towards the stars, but stopped when he realized that this was a place he could never reach. Optimus noticed the solemn expression on Aaron's face as the Titan shifter lowered his hand. Did I upset you? Aaron shook his head. This is one of the kindest things you've done for me. It's just, I've had a lot going on. I have noticed you have been distant lately, Optimus remarked as he sat down on the floor. Is there something on your mind? Aaron laughed at the question. A lot of things, I've been seeing a lot of things. Like what? Optimus asked. Aaron was immediately about to blurt about his death, but the memory of Optimus' corpse flashed through his mind, causing him to clutch his head in pain. Aaron, Optimus spoke with worry. I'm fine, it's just been happening a lot, Aaron explained. I've been seeing memories. Memories? Optimus questioned in surprise. Memories, of my father, Aaron continued, noticing his head no longer aching and the memory of Optimus dying fading away, and his life in Marley. That is why you have been acting strange, Optimus realized. Aaron, why? Optimus stopped himself short when he noticed the sad and guilty expression on his face. Aaron needed comfort, not to be reprimanded. What have you been seeing? Optimus asked. My aunt's death, Aaron answered, his friends and first wife turning into titans, his fingers getting cut off. Did you tell Armin and Mikasa? Optimus asked. Aaron shook his head. They wouldn't get it. Aaron, they are your family, Optimus reminded. Even if they would not understand, they would not want you to be suffering in silence. It's not that easy, Aaron proclaimed. They have this optimism that things will work out. That we can make peace with Marley. I've seen too much in my father's memories. Too much pain and suffering for the Eldians on the other side. I do agree with you on that, Optimus said. It would be hard to find a resolution to this issue without some sort of conflict happening. In regards to your father's memories, I do believe you should talk to someone about it. Can I talk to you? Aaron asked. Optimus nodded his head. I try to think about freedom and a better life for everyone here, Aaron began, but all I see is death. I see my aunt's fresh corpse pulled from the river. I see my comrades getting turned into titans for eternity. These were the same titans I saw in the Battle of Trost, right before you showed up. Every single day in Marley was just a nightmare for me, my family. Everyone cursed us and wanted us to die. Aaron laughed sadly. It's going to be like that if we ever go there, and I don't know if I can see anything else. Aaron looked at Optimus. And that's just the general stuff. I don't want to get into too much detail. Aaron, is there anything I can do to alleviate this pain? Optimus asked. I don't know, Aaron answered. It's nice, just talking to you. And you're listening. If you need me, I will be here, Optimus told him, whenever you're ready to talk about it. Aaron let a nebula pass through his fingers before smiling. I do like this. Can we show the others sometimes? We would have to tell Hanji first to prevent a strained outburst, Optimus reminded. Definitely, Aaron agreed. Optimus turned away and let Aaron enjoy the hologram and thought over the situation. He won't tell the others just yet. Aaron didn't give him explicit permission to tell his family. But he still had to find a way to help Aaron. He had to try for his sake. Chapter 38, Fear Part 2. Aaron was quietly resting in Optimus alt mode as the Titan drove him back to the walls. Aaron turned in his sleep as the Titan continued to contemplate. There must be something that he can do to help Aaron and alleviate his worries. Maybe a way to control the flow of memories, or how to properly deal with them if they come up unexpectedly. No matter what, he had to try and figure this out. He needed to help him with this new power. Marley. Matthew threw a punch, which Gabby, Zofia, and Falco mimicked. He then kicked the air with clean precision. However, the three children struggled to do so. Matthew then threw a right hook, then a left uppercut, which the children were able to mimic. Meanwhile, Colt was sitting on the sidelines, watching his brother and the others train with Matthew. Matthew decided to have them mimic his movements, so that they could learn from him without Matthew trying to harm them. Porco was ordered to help make plans for the next battle coming up, and Colt and Porco were ordered to come. Colt, Gabby, and Zofia were ordered to remain behind in this battle and continue training. Commander Magath believed they needed a little more time before they returned to the battlefield. Colt was happy about that. Falco didn't have to put himself in danger. "Stretch your legs," Matthew ordered them, "your footwork needs to be better." "Yes, sir," they all saluted. Colt noticed the irritation in Matthew's face as Matthew was addressed as sir. The kids began to stretch their legs while Matthew sat down next to Colt. "I'm going to be heading out soon," Colt remarked. "And I'm going to be stuck with these three idiots," Matthew hissed. "I'm just glad my brother doesn't have to go," Colt said before he realized it. He grew worried and began to backtrack on his comment. "It's an honor to serve Marley, but I want to make sure my brother is safe." "You do not have to do that Marleyan bullshit with me," Matthew proclaimed. "Thanks for the reassurance, but I can't afford something like that," Colt told him before whispering, "Others might be listening." Megatron nodded his head in understand, but at the same time was irritated at the prospect. These children had no free will. They had to think a certain way, or they would be forced to become Titans forever. The Titan Shifter might be able to say something, but Marley could just as easily target their families or give them to another batch of warriors. "It doesn't sound like you joined Marley out of loyalty," Megatron whispered. Colt grew stiff, but slightly nodded his head. "I didn't have a choice." Before Megatron could press, Magath came walking into the training grounds. The children and Colt got up to salute their commanding officer. Colt looked down at Megatron with worry, wanting him to salute their commander out of protection, but Megatron simply brushed him off. "You will all be doing shooting range exercises," Magath ordered. "Your training session with Matthew is over." "Yes, sir," they saluted him. "Now move you devils," he ordered. Megatron noted the children being complacent as they ran to the compound. Megatron's eyes drifted towards Magath as the commander glared at him. "You're needed at the research facility," Magath proclaimed, "now." "That why you cut training so early?" Megatron demanded. "Enough with the insubordination," Magath ordered, "you are here to do a job. No more, no less." Megatron rolled his eyes and stood up. He couldn't wait for the day to put this pathetic human in his place. "Paradise. Medication?" Aaron asked. "Meditation," Optimus corrected, "it is a developed practice from Earth that allows one to train the mind to have a more relaxed and calm mental state." "What does that have to do with me?" Aaron asked. "I want to do more to help you deal with the memories you have been receiving from your father and possibly other Titan Shifters before you," Optimus told him as he kneeled down, "and while I do not have the solution, I do have a few ideas on how to calm the mind. Perhaps this might help you focus on the memories and gain a clearer understanding of them. Or it could help you clear your mind of the memories and relax. We'll still do training after this, right?" Aaron asked. "Yes," Optimus answered as he sat down with his legs crossed. He gestured in front of him, and Aaron sat down on the ground, mimicking Optimus' position. "Now, close your eyes and take a deep breath," Optimus said. Aaron did as he was told, shutting his eyes and taking a deep breath. "Do not force yourself to breathe. Let it come naturally to you," Optimus continued. "Clear your mind of all distractions and negative thoughts." Aaron began to drown out Optimus' words and focused on clearing his mind. He was able to experience it. He was able to experience that moment of focus and relaxation, but then something flashed through his mind. He tried to block it out, but it came in an aggressive way. Aaron gritted his teeth, wanting to call out to Optimus and tell him. He opened his eyes and found himself in a barren wasteland. He gasped, rolled out of the way as a large foot nearly crushed him. He watched in horror as multiple colossal titans continued to walk forward. Their destination was unknown, but they continued to go in the same direction. He tried to reach for them, wanting to know what was going on, but they began to fade from his sight. His hand continued to reach forward, but someone grabbed his hand and called his name. Aaron's vision cleared and he saw Optimus looking at him with worry. Aaron blinked, and felt tears roll down his cheeks. He wiped them away with his other hand, and gasped in fear as he saw blue tears. We need to go to Hanji, Optimus declared as he pulled Aaron to his feet. Aaron couldn't process what was happening as he was taken to Hanji. Zeke could only watch as they created another mutated Titan, clocking it at 3 meters tall. The Titan continued its destructive rampage. The commanders watched on in disgust and fear as it slammed into the wall. Zeke turned his attention to Matthew, and nearly wanted to scream as he saw the Titan reading a book on Marleyan law. Another explosion happened below as everyone covered their ears, but Matthew merely flipped to the next page of the book. It was almost as if he didn't care at all. Like he was desensitized to weapons and war. How can he deal with this? Zeke noticed some of the commanders looking at Matthew with fear and disgust. Zeke had no doubt that they speculated that Matthew was an Eldian, or at the very least, an Ackerman. Neither of which put him in a good position. If they demanded for an investigation, he and Matthew were screwed. Zeke turned his attention to Commander Calvi's back. However, Calvi personally asked for Matthew's assistance to protect the other commanders. He might have gained Calvi's favor. As long as he had that, none of the other commanders could touch him. He just hoped it stayed that way. Paradise. Aaron was brought back to his thoughts when Hanji began pulling his eyelids apart to examine his eye. He tried to move, but couldn't pry himself from her grip. The commander noticed blue veins surrounding his eyes that didn't bother to recede back into his spine. Well, Optimus pressed. Well, Hanji trailed off as she let Aaron go. It's something. Do you know why? Optimus demanded. Hanji sighed. My theory, this is tied to Aaron's emotions or will and all. My will? Aaron questioned. I was trying to keep myself calm this time. How would that activate the powers? It's a theory, Hanji reminded. When you activate your powers, you need to injure yourself along with having a strong sense of will, like wanting to fight Jean, or trying to calm your mind. So I can't even relax? Aaron demanded in anger. Aaron gasped as he saw the energon spread throughout the veins in his arms. He tried to cover them, but Hanji quickly pulled up one of his sleeves. So this might be an emotional trigger, Hanji noted. Good to know. Isn't there a way to fix this? Aaron pleaded. Hanji rubbed the side of her head in a tired motion. I wish I knew. It's trying to discover exactly what it's doing to you, that's the problem. Optimus, isn't there anything on that ship that would be useful and understand what is going on with Aaron? Almost all advanced medical supplies have been devoured by scraplets, Optimus informed. The ones available has some sort of damage to it. None of which would be sufficient enough to conduct further analysis. You know, for someone with an infinite amount of primary wisdom, it wouldn't kill you to know how to fix shit, Hanji groaned. I am a soldier of war, not a mechanic or a medical professional, Optimus reminded. Aaron saw Hanji holding a vial with a sample of his tears. Can we analyze this? Hanji asked. I do not know, Optimus admitted. Hanji threw the vial in the air before catching it. I'll hold on to this and experiment with it. See what comes up before taking it to the neutral ship and hopefully get a better analysis there. For now, Aaron, you should rest before you do anything else. But Optimus placed a hand on Aaron's shoulder. It is for the best. I will train you later, but your health is your priority. Aaron wanted to argue, but he couldn't. He probably wouldn't be able to focus. He had to make sure that he was able to keep up with Optimus. Okay, Aaron relented, I'll wait. Megatron walked down the hall as he continued to read the book on Marleyan law. The experimentation was uneventful, and that human wanted to keep the Titan alive for further study. They most likely believe that they will be able to control it, but based on observation, it seemed like they were far from that. So now, he was heading to the Beast Titan's office to talk to him about the island's situation. What he couldn't believe right now were the extensive amount of laws that were in discrimination of the Eldians. They couldn't exit the internment zone without a permit. Moving from one location to another was practically impossible, and job opportunities were limited. He had no doubt that even if they were allowed to work outside the internment zone, they would face harsh discrimination and cruelty. It was safer for them to remain inside the internment zone, but they had no freedom. Megatron mindlessly stepped over something on the floor, but stopped when he noticed the thing on the ground moving. Megatron raised his head from the book and saw Pike crawling on all four. Megatron was genuinely perplexed as he shut the book. "Are you okay?" Megatron asked in his other vernacular. Pike raised her head to Megatron and smiled at him. "Matthew, good to see you. Sorry about this. Am I in your way?" "No," Megatron responded. "Well, that's good," Pike said with relief. "Is there a reason you're on the floor?" Megatron asked. "Being in my Titan form for so long does take its toll," Pike admitted. "I'm more used to walking on all fours instead of my own 2 feet." "Then why don't you use your crutches?" Megatron suggested. "I left them back in my house," Pike admitted. "I thought that I'd be fine without it for the day." Pike was about to press forward, but Megatron quickly grabbed her collar and pulled her to her feet. "Oh, you don't have to. You're going to get yelled at by a Marleyan," Megatron insisted. "Where do you need to go?" "I just wanted to get something to eat," Pike explained. "It's not that far." Megatron slung Pike's arm over his shoulder and used his other arm to hold her side. He helped her walk towards the cafeteria. "You don't have to do this," Pike insisted. "I'm doing it," Megatron said. "You shouldn't do this," Pike said. "You'll be spit on and called dirt." "I can live with that," Megatron declared. "So, did you like the book I got you?" Pike seemed to look even guiltier. "What's wrong?" Megatron asked her. "The book was nice," Pike explained, "but I burned it afterward." Megatron stopped and looked down at her. "That book was a gift. Why would you burn it?" "I couldn't risk getting caught with it," Pike whispered. "I managed to read it in secret, but I just couldn't be seen with it. People would ask and assume the worst. My dad could end up becoming a Titan and I would lose my powers prematurely." Pike looked up at Megatron with a somber expression on her face. "I do thank you for the book. I'm sorry I wasted your money." Megatron sighed in response. "If you enjoyed it, then it wasn't a complete waste." Megatron and Pike arrived at the cafeteria and set Pike down on one of the tables. "Matthew, why are you so nice to us?" Pike asked. "Is that so wrong?" Megatron asked her. "We're Eldians," Pike reminded. "We've destroyed the world." Megatron chuckled in response as he filled a cup with water. "Trust me when I say this, I grew up in an environment where non-Eldians treated me like I was nothing. I was just a commodity. When you grow up in an environment where no one cares for you, you tend to realize an important truth." Megatron handed Pike the water. "Humans are trash, regardless if they can turn into a Titan or not. Non-Eldians are no different than Eldians. We're cruel and disgusting against each other. Once you recognize that, the world is your oyster." Pike was surprised as she took the water from him. "It's almost as if you've given up on humanity. If the colossal Titans in the walls on Paradise are activated, I believe that we deserve it," Megatron admitted. "Marley's doing what Eldia has done, and when Marley loses its power, the next country will do the same. We'll continue to be cruel to one another, and it will never end." "There are still good people in this world," Pike reasoned. "Not from what I've seen," Megatron declared, "but it's interesting that an Eldian would think that there are good people in the world, when everyone else spits in your face." "I just know where to look," Pike smiled, "kind of like right now." "Sorry to disappoint, but you're getting your hopes up," Megatron insisted. Pike chuckled in response. "So you do hate Eldians after all?" Megatron was confused by the girl's proclamation, but realized that she was testing him. She wanted to determine if his words were genuine. "I hate everyone. You being an Eldian makes no difference in that. So, why bother helping out Colt and Falco?" Pike asked him. Megatron raised an eyebrow. "I didn't know you knew about that." "Word got around pretty fast," Pike answered, "and Colt came to me and Zeke to vent about his worries before actually talking to you. So, if you hate everyone, why bother to help two Eldians?" "Guess I thought of doing something nice," Megatron answered, "but usually when I do, it gets me into trouble." "I guess being here with me would get you into more trouble," Pike said. "You should probably go." Megatron shrugged. I'll see you around then. Megatron grabbed some bread on the countertop before leaving Pike alone in the mess hall. Paradise. Hanji was fixing the Thunder Spear while Aaron threw a punch at Optimus. Hanji looked up from her work to see Optimus block it before tripping Aaron. The teen hit his back and rolled out of the way as Optimus' fist hit the ground. Aaron insisted that he was fine. Constantly insisted, stating that the Energon regressed and that he wasn't feeling any pain at all. Optimus relented because Hanji is pretty sure that he has a soft spot for Aaron. Hanji decided to let it happen because it would allow her to observe Aaron during these fights, and see whether or not the Energon would activate again. Hopefully, he wouldn't turn into a Titan again the first time he started training with Optimus. Aaron managed to get on his feet before throwing a punch at Optimus again. Optimus caught his fist and twisted his arm before flipping him onto his back. Aaron got up fast and grunted as Optimus kicked him in the face. Aaron spit on the ground and wiped his face as Optimus got into his fighting stance. Aaron made sure to keep himself calm as Optimus threw another punch. Aaron was about to retaliate, but something flashed through his mind. Optimus was attacking him, but in his Titan form. He was throwing a punch at him and something told him to. Aaron ducked his head and punched Optimus in the gut. He kicked the Prime in his knee, causing him to fall on his other one. Aaron managed to put Optimus into a chokehold, and for some reason, he wanted to crush his windpipe. Holy shit! Hanji exclaimed, snapping Aaron out of his thought. He loosened his grip on Optimus, and the Prime grabbed his shirt and flipped him over on his back. Optimus pinned Aaron to the ground and Aaron groaned in pain. Aaron, your eyes, Optimus began. Aaron gasped in fear as he forced himself up and looked down at his arms once more. The Energon spread rapidly throughout his veins at a much more aggressive pace. What's going on? Aaron asked in a shaky voice. Hanji got a mirror and put it up to Aaron's face. Aaron stared in horror as he saw his veins glowing blue around his eyes. What do I do? Aaron asked in a panic. Try to calm down, Hanji advised. I can't, Aaron said as tears fell down his cheeks. Optimus placed his hands on Aaron's shoulders. Take deep breaths. Aaron grabbed Optimus' hands tightly, taking deep breaths to the best of his ability. As Aaron continued to take deep breaths, the Energon inside of him receded back into his spine. Optimus sighed in relief as he took his hands off of Aaron's shoulders. What happened, Aaron? Optimus asked with concern. Aaron was about to respond, but a vision flashed into his mind, showing Optimus' corpse on the ground. The spear was in his side, his eyes were lifeless, Energon was leaking from his mouth. Aaron quickly stood up and back away from Optimus like he was cursed. Aaron, Optimus reached out for him, but Aaron shook his head. I can't, Aaron proclaimed, I can't do this. Aaron turned around and ran away from them. Aaron, wait. Hanji called out, but Optimus placed his hand on her shoulder. Hanji was about to retort, but she saw a worried look in his eyes. He needs time, Optimus insisted. Hanji wanted to tell him to talk to him, but knew that Aaron was too distraught to talk about it. I'll tell Armin and Mikasa, Hanji said. Zeke was finishing a call with Yelena when some bread was placed on his desk. Zeke looked up to see Matthew moving towards the couch. The Titan sat down and opened his book on Marleyan law to read. Zeke picked up the bread before glancing at Matthew. Thanks. I took it so the cart Titan would believe I was going to eat it, Matthew explained in his normal voice, no more, no less. Zeke rolled his eyes. Sounds about right. I do have a question, Matthew began. Zeke raised an eyebrow. About what? Why are Colt Grice and his brother in the military? Matthew asked. Zeke thought over that information. I suppose that reasoning is because of me. Matthew shut the book. In what regard? When I sold out my parents to Marley, Colt, and Falco's uncle was part of the group, Zeke explained. Because of that, Colt's family was in danger of being sent to Paradise. The only way that they could prove their loyalty and save their family, was if Colt joined the military. Thankfully, he qualifies as a warrior candidate, so his family won't be forced to become Titans. So they are forced to fight in this war because of you, Megatron concluded. Believe me, if I didn't sell out my parents, Every single family member that had some sort of association with the Eldian restorationists would have been forced to become Titans, Zeke proclaimed. What I did was the better option. Matthew stared at Zeke for a moment before returning to his book. I'm not thrilled that I will be forced to stay here with the other humans. Orders, Zeke reminded, there's not much I can do to influence that. But the lack of security should allow you to gather information more freely. I suppose it is a good thing that your world hasn't made video cameras yet, Matthew commented. Video cameras? Zeke questioned. I won't explain that to you, Matthew declared. Zeke got irritated as he began going over some reports. He suppose it is a little frustrating that this Titan had more knowledge than him, and that knowledge just happened to be in the hands of Paradis. Despite this, Marley had the advantage of having more advanced weaponry. Eldia may have the Titans, but it would still take some time for them to reach it. The island agreed to your proposition, Matthew informed. Zeke raised his head to Matthew. Oh really? Unfortunately, Matthew answered, so inform your assistant and your team to step lightly when you send the ship to the island. I'll keep that in mind, Zeke said. I'll be sure to send it when the military goes to the next battle. Paradis. Optimus began working on the tracker once more in the neutral ship, trying to get his mind off of what happened today. He wanted to go talk to Aaron after what happened. He was at the door to his room, but he just couldn't bring himself to knock on the door. He wasn't sure if Aaron needed time, or if he should talk to him. He noticed a change in Aaron's behavior, but he didn't know if it was due to the Energon experimentation, or the threat of Marley, or his shortened lifespan. Optimus sighed to himself as he covered his optics with his servo. It was all of it, he knew that. Aaron had too much to bear on his shoulders. If there was a way that he could ease it, he would. But, he wasn't sure how. Optimus heard some metal clatter and flinched. He looked down to see Hanji getting up and removing her foot out of a wedge in the floor. Commander, I need to work on this in private, Optimus informed. Hanji used her 3D gear to lift herself onto the table. She got on top of the tracker, gaining the Prime's attention. What you need is a break, Hanji proclaimed. You're worried about Aaron. So am I, but I feel like this is getting to you more than me. Hanji. Come back to the walls, away from your work and the ship, and let's talk about it, Hanji insisted. I would appreciate it if I may continue with this, Optimus said. I'll just annoy you into coming back with me, Hanji proclaimed. I'm already tired, it took me a while to get here by horse. Optimus stared at Hanji before relenting. All right. Zeke was sitting in a meeting with the other commanders in regards to the invasion of Paradis Island. At the moment, they intended to send 2 ships there to see what they could do. Unfortunately, Reiner was brought into the meeting for insider perspective. And the commanders were not thrilled about the situation. The island is aware of Marley and the power of the Titans, Reiner reasoned. Even if we decide to attack, it shouldn't be from the south. The south is the only place where large ships can dock, a commander retorted in irritation. Any other location would be impossible. The Flying Titan destroyed the port, Reiner reminded. There would be no place for large ships to dock regardless. Defenses are weaker in the north because the Titans came from the south for a century. Even so, what if the Flying Titan is monitoring the island? He could be flying around, and we could be ambushed. Enough, Calvi ordered. It's clear your experience with the Flying Titan has clouded your thought process. Sir. Do you have doubt in our power? Calvi demanded. No. Then why are you fighting with us, devil? Calvi demanded. Zeke could tell Reiner wanted to say something back, but it would lead him into more trouble. Reiner bowed his head in shame. I am sorry for speaking out of turn, Reiner apologized. Calvi waved his hand. We've heard enough from you. Reiner walked out of the room and shut the door behind him. Zeke turned his attention to Commander Calvi. Reiner Braun does bring valid points, Zeke reasoned. Brute force alone is not enough to take these Titans down and retrieve the Founding Titan. These Titans have not seen the power of our military might, a commander proclaimed. Without them, those island devils would be nothing. But they do have those Titans, Magath reminded, and they have the experience and power. We cannot attack them head-on. What is your recommendation? Calvi asked. We do attack from the south, Magath answered, but we find another location to land and sneak into the walls to obtain the founding titan. We have to avoid the presence of both titans. They are valuable, another commander reasoned, more valuable than the founding titan. But we have no means of capture, or understanding their technology, or even who they are, Magath retorted, we don't even have a name for the flying titan. That is how little we know about them. We will send 2 ships to the south for infiltration, Calvi decided. If that does not work, we will redirect the boarding of the ship to the north. Defenses will be less vulnerable there. They may be expecting our presence, since they are now aware of our existence, Zeke reminded. They do not know the weaponry at our disposal, and they do not know that we are at war, Calvi retorted. That should give us some advantage. Zeke resisted giving a sour face. The flying titan was right under their nose, and Zeke would have to tell them about this meeting. Marley had no advantage over them at all. That night, Aaron stared up at the ceiling to his room. It was late, really late. He hasn't been able to sleep. The images of Optimus' death kept on plaguing his mind. He didn't even tell Optimus what was wrong. He felt like he hasn't been able to vent to Armin or Mikasa. He didn't want to burden them with what he was seeing. It scared him. Aaron sat up on his bed. Maybe if he talked to Optimus, and explained the situation, it might help. Aaron exited his room and shut the door before walking down the hall. He just needed to go outside, and Optimus should be there if he wasn't at the ship. Aaron heard muffled talking as he saw a light coming from one of the rooms. He was about to ignore it, but he recognized one of the voices as Hanji's. You know it really sucks you can't drink, Hanji said, this whiskey is hitting the spot. I was never really one for high-grade Energon, Optimus explained. Don't like the taste? Hanji asked. I don't have a tolerance for it, Optimus admitted. Optimus Prime is a lightweight. Hanji asked with eagerness and disbelief, I feel sorry for you, but I also want to know if you ever got drunk. Hanji. Have you done anything embarrassing while drunk? Hanji asked. Why would I tell you this? Optimus questioned her. For science, Hanji declared, speaking of science, I went over that vial of Aaron's tears. Aaron stiffened at Hanji's proclamation. I didn't really find any difference, Hanji admitted, I'm sorry. Optimus sighed as he rubbed his eyes in irritation. What do we say to Aaron? How do we explain to him that we still have no knowledge of this situation? Optimus. I could see it in his eyes, Optimus continued, he was terrified. Despite the fact that he improved during training, he was more terrified after he was able to gain the upper hand. Optimus, it wasn't your fault, Aaron heard Hanji reason with him, what happened with Aaron was by accident. You couldn't have known he was going to have an anxiety attack. That is not the issue, Optimus told her. Then what is? Optimus trailed off, I feel as though I can do nothing to help him. Aaron was shocked at the proclamation. Optimus always helped him. Why would he say that? Optimus, that's bullshit, Hanji reasoned, you're always breaking your back to make sure he's okay. You've saved his life, you trained him, you're actively ensuring his mental health and making sure he doesn't go rogue. It feels as though every time I try to help him, I make the situation worse or it does not help him at all, Optimus reasoned, I do not know how to respond to the Energon situation, or his shortened lifespan, or the situation in regards to Marley. I tried to help him meditate, but it did nothing to calm his mind. Meditation is meant to be a consistent practice, but it made him shed lubricant. He has been experiencing past memories. When was this? Hanji demanded as Aaron grew tense. He told me yesterday, Optimus answered, I was going to refrain from telling for privacy reasons, but the Energon is clearly messing with his processors. What did he see? Hanji demanded. He said he was seeing his father's memories, Optimus answered. Hanji grimaced and shut her eyes. Shit. No wonder Aaron's acting the way he is. He's probably experiencing his father getting his fingers cut off, his first wife turning into a titan, his sister's corpse. This is severe. Hanji, I have no idea how to help him or what to do, Optimus declared, I fear for Aaron's safety. Aaron turned his head to peek through the room and saw that Optimus was hunched over in the chair. Hanji put her drink down and rubbed his back in comfort. Listen, Hanji began, we are the Survey Corps. Our main goal is to investigate and learn about what we do not know. We will figure out what is going on with Eren, and we will make sure that he lives to his full term. Optimus still looked unsure, but he nodded his head regardless. Do not bring up what I told you about Eren's memories to him. I do not want Eren to feel pressured into sharing what is going on. Eren was surprised while Hanji's mouth formed a thin line. I think we should discuss this soon, but I get it. Hanji relented, my lips are sealed. Eren didn't want to hear any more and made his way back to his room. He didn't know what to do. Now, he felt like he couldn't tell Optimus because it would cause the Prime to be more concerned about him. He didn't want anyone to worry about him, but... The memory of Optimus' corpse flashed through his mind and Eren clutched his head. There had to be a way to figure out what these memories were, but he couldn't access the full power of the Founding Titan because he isn't of royal blood. The only time he was able to access it was when he was in that cave, and Historia and her father put their hands on his back. Eren came to an epiphany as he ran up the stairs of the castle. He needed Historia. He needed Historia's help to unlock these memories. Ymir groaned in irritation as someone knocking on the door woke her up. She sat up before looking down to see Historia still sleeping, moaning as she moved to grab her pillow. The knock came on the door again and Ymir almost swore. It was late, and she was tired. What the hell could be going on right now? Ymir got up and walked over to the door. She was about to chew out the bastard who was there, but was surprised to see a distressed-looking Eren. His eyes were still that piercing blue, and it looked like he hadn't slept in hours. My god, you look like shit, Ymir swore, is this what's going to happen to me? I need to talk to Historia, Eren told her. Wait till the morning, Ymir told him, it's late, and I'm already pissed about you waking me up in the middle of the night just to talk to my wife. Ymir, it's urgent, Eren pleaded, this can't wait until the morning. Can't I just tell Historia you want to meet with her later? Ymir groaned. No, Eren begged, please, I need her help. Ymir could see the sheer panic written all over Eren's face. She could see that he was desperate. Before Ymir could respond, Historia placed a hand on her shoulder. Ymir, what's going on? Historia asked as she rubbed her eyes. Historia, I need your help. Hold it, Ymir hissed as she turned to his wife, Historia, go back to bed. Historia looked over Ymir's shoulder as her vision cleared to see Eren's distressed expression. Eren, what's wrong? I need to talk to you in private, Eren pleaded. No way, Ymir interjected, what do you even want at this hour? I can't say, but Historia can help me, Eren answered, Historia, please. Historia didn't want to leave Eren alone like this. It looked like he needed someone. She turned to Ymir and kissed her cheek. I'll be right back, Historia promised. Ymir wanted to retort, but sighed in response. She had to respect her wife's decision. I'll wait for you. Historia nodded as she followed Eren out the room and shut the door behind her. Eren continued walking down the hall as Historia tried her best to keep up due to her tired state. Eren, what's wrong? Historia asked. We need to be in a secure place, Eren reasoned. After some time walking out of the castle, the two of them ended up in the horses' barracks. Eren lit one of the lanterns set before setting it down on the ground. Eren, what's wrong? Historia asked. I need your help in accessing memories, Eren declared. Historia blinked in confusion. I thought we already did that in the cave. Eren shook his head. Not those memories. These are different ones. I've been having them since I took the Energon serum, and it keeps on messing with my head. Over and over again. How come you didn't tell Optimus, or Hanji? Historia asked, what about Armin and Mikasa? Armin and Mikasa wouldn't understand, Eren reasoned, I can't even tell them about my own father's memories. How can I tell them about something I don't even know is true? And every time I try to tell Optimus, there's this thing that stops me. What thing? Historia asked. Eren looked down in shame. Eren. I don't even know if I'd be able to tell you, Eren admitted before rolling up his sleeve and holding out his bare arm, but you might be able to see what I'm talking about. Historia looked down at his arm. Are you sure you can't just tell me? Every time I try to tell someone, I'm shown something terrible, Eren answered. If we make contact, like we did in the cave, you might be able to see what I see. Historia debated her options. She was nervous about this prospect, but if it helped, then. Eren watched Historia roll up her sleeve and hold out her bare arm. Eren began trembling as Historia reached out her hand to his arm. They clasped their hands around each other's arms, and the onslaught of memories came flooding in. My name is Grisha Yeager, his father shouted in the cave at Frieda Rice. I'm like you, a subject of Ymir. Please, you must kill the titans attacking the wall at once. If you don't, my entire family will be devoured. Eren found himself fighting another titan shifter with a large hammer. Megatron was there, along with the other members of the Survey Corps, but there was one unfamiliar being running around and attacking another titan shifter. The titan shifter had energon in their veins and ran at high speeds to attack the other titan. He could feel Megatron slam him against the wall in his hollow form and look at him with such anger and fury, wanting to kill him. He suddenly felt angry when he found himself somewhere at the night time. Megatron was talking with someone but he couldn't determine who. Eren, I will save you, along with the rest of Eldia, a man swore, you won't have to suffer anymore. Eren found himself talking to a woman with a bowl cut, seemingly offering him a proposition. He later found himself talking to Floch, but he couldn't determine why he was doing it in the first place. Eren, please, an older Mikasa pleaded, come home. Eren later saw tears coming down Mikasa's face, while he physically attacked Armin, who was glaring at him with a venom and an unwillingness to concede. Eren slammed his foot into Armin's chest and pinned him to the ground. You have placed everyone on the island at risk now. It is only a matter of time before an aerial attack happens from all corners of the world. People on the island will die because of your brash actions. Optimus swore, the Titan looking at him in his hollow form through cell bars. So I sit by and do nothing like you. Eren shouted back. I would rather die than put my life in your hands. Do you hear me? A female voice shouted. Chief, let's go, someone told Optimus. He could see his friends, his family, fighting the colossal titans together. He watched in horror as they all were dropping to the ground dead. But heed my warning, Eren Yeager. It doesn't matter the motivation. Optimus and Megatron's blades clashed against each other. It doesn't matter the goal. Why are you here? An older, scared Reiner asked him. I'm just like you, Eren told him, I had no choice. If you go down the path, no one will be by your side. Eren found himself face to face with Optimus in his Titan form. Your friends. Everyone was pleading with Eren in his Titan form as he took a deep breath. Your family. He could hear Mikasa screaming in agony. Everyone will turn their back on you. He could see everyone, Titans and humans, coming at him with their weapons. No one will care for the purpose. They'll just see the actions and destruction that you've caused. We must stop the demon, Eren Yeager, someone declared, join me in the fight against the demons of Paradise. No matter what side, you will never be seen as a hero. He could see humans screaming as they were running for their lives. He then saw a young girl screaming for her friend as he fell to his death. You will only be seen as a monster. Eren heard a loud, wet sinking noise. He could feel blood on the hands of his Titan form, and he could tell that he was holding something in his hand. He touched something with his other one, but what he felt was metal. Eren felt dread growing in the pit of his stomach. In his vision, he could only see the colossal Titan still roaming the earth. He looked down in horror, as he saw Optimus Prime. His mask was broken, and energon was pooling from his mouth. He coughed up more of it and it hit Eren's chest. He transformed his arm with the broken blade back into his hand as he reached up for Eren. Eren was beginning to panic. He could feel dread, fear, and horror fill his body as Optimus looked at him with sorrow, sadness, regret, and hopelessness. Eren, Optimus coughed up more energon. Eren was frozen, as Optimus' hand touched Eren's face. I failed you, Optimus said, I'm so. Eren could only watch as Optimus fell backwards and hit his back on the ground. Eren felt something leave his grip as he hit his back, and he recognized that he had stabbed Optimus with a spear-like dagger in his side. Eren trembled, his legs began shaking as the life from Optimus' eyes faded, leaving only a dull gray. Aaron looked down at his hands to see them stained with Optimus Prime's blood. He killed Optimus. He killed Optimus. He killed Optimus. Aaron quickly knelt down, his hands trembling as he grabbed Optimus' shoulders. He shook him, tried to wake him up, but it was no use. His body was already getting colder. Aaron began to cry in an abundance, bringing the body close to him and holding it deathly tight. He tried to beg Optimus to wake up, but his prayers fell on deaf ears. When Aaron recognized that Optimus was dead, that Optimus was gone and he was the one that killed him, he raised his head and screamed out to the heavens as the colossal titans trampled the earth. Chapter 39, The Restorationists. Zeke and the others warriors watched as the Paradise soldiers boarded the 3 ships, one of which included his followers, the Eldian Restorationists. They wanted to see them off before heading off to the next battle. There was little vocal opposition in the plan, but he could see that some of them were worried about the situation. But it wasn't up for debate. The failure of the Paradise expedition and the loss of the Jaws Titans has led to this war. They needed to rectify that in order for Marley to remain a global superpower. Zeke noticed Yelena was the last to board the ship, and she gave a subtle wink to him while the ropes holding the ship were being untied. The remaining soldiers and warriors saluted the soldiers on the ship as it made way to the island. Hopefully, they will return safely, Pike said. Zeke heard Reiner mumble something under his breath, something about doubt. Zeke had a gut feeling Reiner was talking about the mission and how it was going to be a failure. And he was right about that, because Zeke handed the plans over to the Flying Titan. Those ships were not going to come back. Paradise. Optimus looked onward towards the horizon, noticing the very thin line between the sky and the sea. The Titan looked behind him to see the Survey Corps setting up camp and preparing their weapons for the arrival of the Merlians. According to Megatron, they were to arrive in 2 days with 3 military ships. There were no Eldians injected with the serum, so they didn't have to worry about Titans running rampant. In regards to the strategy itself to invade the island, that was up for debate. Megatron knew that they would attack the south of the island, but he wasn't able to confirm the exact strategy. Optimus felt someone hook onto his shoulder and saw Hanji landing there with her 3D gear. Transportation of all weaponry is complete, Hanji informed, now it's just sitting and waiting. Unfortunately, the only person that we know is a restorationist is Yelena. We don't know how many on those ships will actually be part of that group. I'm certain they will reveal themselves once they arrive on the island, Optimus proclaimed, the only thing we can do now is wait. Do you think Buckethead will come and help? Hanji asked. I do not know, Optimus admitted, if it was a full-fledged attack, then he would help. So he stays in Marley until further notice, Hanji sighed, or until the military can completely trust him to allow him to come back and forth to the island more freely. You do remember what I told you in regards to addressing Megatron, correct? Optimus asked. Hanji sighed. Yes, I do. Under no circumstances are we to address Megatron by his actual name in the presence of the Eldian Restorationists and the Merlians. But the question is, why? Why bother? It's not like the Merlians are going to leave the island. It is a way to measure trust, Optimus explained. Megatron does not trust Zeke Yeager or his followers. If he does, then he will give his name as a way measure trust. It also wouldn't be wise to reveal his name, when reports state that Reiner, Annie, and Berthold do not know his name. Fine, but I'm going to keep calling him Buckethead, Hanji proclaimed. Hanji, Optimus warned. To his face, Hanji continued. No. And when he orders me to stop, I'm going to say, I thought you didn't like your name, Hanji imitated as she batted her eyelashes. Do not aggravate him, Optimus ordered. He can't do anything to me, Hanji declared. We both know that is a lie, he will find a way, Optimus retorted. Hanji sighed. You're right. Suppose that's what's terrifying about him. Marley. Megatron found himself walking towards the mess hall in irritation. He didn't want to, but he had to create some illusion that he was human. Taking food to his room and disposing of it later seemed to fool these idiots long enough to come up with an actual excuse. Since he's been pushing the narrative that he doesn't take trust easily, he pretends to eat by himself. It usually works out for him just fine. The one benefit of having no one trust you, is that no one wants to come near you unless ordered to. Well, almost. Megatron glanced behind him to see Gabby, Falco, and Zofia hiding behind a wall. These three kids have been tailing him for the past couple of minutes. He tried to shake them off without them knowing he was aware of their presence, but it didn't really seem to work. They were persistent, he'll give them that. But he needed to put an end to this soon. Megatron entered the mess hall quickly and grabbed some random package meal before exiting. He went back the way he came, noting that the three children were hiding again. Megatron walked down the hallway and grabbed one of them at random by their collar and dragging them down the rest of the way as they struggled to get out of his grasp. "Let go," the one in his grasp cried out. Megatron wanted to visibly groan. It was the loud one. He made it outside before throwing Gabby to the floor. "Stop following me around," Megatron ordered in his other vernacular as Falco and Zofia helped Gabby to her feet. "But..." Megatron held up his hand to tell them to be quiet. "You have been following me around, and pestering me for months, despite the fact that I don't want to be anywhere near anyone here. Least of all, kids. So, go away." "Sir, wait." Gabby pleaded as she got up in front of him, "Can you please train us?" "I train based on the schedule, and right now is my break," Megatron hissed. "Can you tell us about how you got so good?" Gabby asked, "Or your scars? How did you get your scars?" "None of your business," Megatron answered. "What about the places you've been to?" Falco asked, "Have you traveled a lot?" "No." "Matthew Hayes," a voice spoke behind him. "What?" Megatron yelled as he turned to see Commander Calvi right behind him. Megatron noted that the three kids were now pale in their faces. They straightened their backs and saluted the commander. Megatron could tell they were terrified. "What do you want?" Megatron demanded. "You're needed in the lab," Calvi proclaimed. "I will be in attendance and I need your protection." Megatron rolled his eyes. "Fine." Calvi turned his attention to the three Eldians and glared at them. "What gives you devils the right to pester and bother a human giving his service?" Megatron saw that they were beginning to tremble, and he could have sworn one of them was about to cry. "When Matthew tells you that he does not want to be bothered, listen to him," Calvi ordered. "He does not have time for your trickster games. You are not even worth the time of day." "Yes, sir," they all said. Calvi turned to Megatron. "These devils won't bother you anymore during your free time." Megatron didn't reply as Calvi walked back into the compound. Megatron glanced back at the children's guilty and scared expressions. We're sorry," Falco apologized. Megatron looked down at the packaged food in his hand before tossing it to Falco. Falco stumbled to catch it, and Megatron saw the three's expressions changing into one of surprise and confusion. Megatron merely placed a finger over his lips before following Calvi inside. Later, Megatron watched the 3-meter Titan running around in the chamber while Calvi was talking to one of the scientists about their studies. Calvi dismissed the scientists before turning his attention to the 3-meter Titan as well. "I didn't mean to yell at you earlier," Megatron stated. It wasn't an apology, he had no actual reason to apologize to him. But it allowed Calvi to believe that he was apologetic. "I understand," Calvi said, "you were angry at those devils. They kept on pestering you and wouldn't leave you alone. You can use violence against them so they will listen to you." "Pretty sure that I'm not allowed to do that," Megatron recalled. "You're a human, and they are Eldians," Calvi reassured. "You are well within your rights to do so. It's not like you would get into trouble for it. Besides, it keeps them in line. You can't let them think you're their equal." Calvi pointed to the Titan below. "Look at that devil. Running around like a demented animal, waiting to get its hands on another human to devour. However you treat them, it won't affect you. Even though they are your weapons." Megatron questioned. "If they speak out of line, we can just turn them into Titans," Calvi shrugged. "We always have more of them at our disposal anyway." Megatron felt oddly disgusted with this human. At least more disgusted than with the average human. Why did this situation bother him so much? He doesn't even care about these humans? He also treated the humans with carelessness. What difference did this make? You also treated the Viacons like this, Unicron reminded. They were expendable, practically identical. Breakdown was the only one to treat them with any form of respect. Meanwhile, you thought carelessly of them. You threw one to their death to retrieve the Omega keys. Megatron waved his hand to brush the apparition away. The former warlord looked down at the Titan with an unreadable expression. It's not like they know what they are doing, Megatron retorted. Doesn't matter, Calvi proclaimed, they would destroy the world if left unchecked. There was silence between the two, the only noise coming from the Titan below them. So am I going to stay here the whole time? Megatron demanded. I just wanted to check up on the Titan, Calvi admitted. I wanted to see the progress in studying it before having someone kill it. I'm not putting my neck out to kill that thing, Megatron declared. That's fair, Calvi said, I'll have it killed by Zeke when he returns. Which reminds me, why aren't you on the battlefield with your men? Megatron asked. I'm more valuable alive than dead, Calvi answered, it wouldn't make sense for me to be out on the front lines. Especially considering the situation. I can't say I follow, Megatron played dumb. The war started because we lost the Jaws Titan, and unknowingly lost the Attack Titan, Calvi stated, it's lost to those devils of Paradise, and it started this war. Marley needs all the help it can get. Calvi saw Matthew counting with his fingers while mouthing something. Then why are only 3 on the battlefield? Matthew asked, I only saw Pike, Zeke, and Reiner. What about the other 2 Titan shifters? Calvi looked back down at the Titan below and sighed. I'm afraid that's classified information. Well, if you want me to protect you, I think I would be nice to know that information, Matthew retorted. Calvi sighed. We have them on lockdown for experimentation. We need to confirm that we can use this energon for combat without harming our soldiers. We can't put them on the battlefield for a while. Do I need to guard them? Matthew asked. No need, Calvi reassured, both of them are locked away underground. Even if they could transform, they're underground. They'd end up crushing themselves to death. Calvi saw Matthew nod his head in understanding as he looked back down at the Titan. So tell me, Matthew, what was your primary weapon in those illegal death matches you told me you were part of? Matthew seemed irritated at answering the question, but relented regardless. A sword. Really? Calvi asked in surprise, I would very much like to see you use one. I've sworn it off, Matthew declared, it's a part of my life that I don't want to go back to. That's disappointing, Calvi sighed, I still think your fighting style is impressive. It was something that I had to learn over time, Matthew responded, so don't expect the Eldians to learn it so quickly. Your lesser seems to want immediate results. Commander Magath? Calvi questioned. Yes, and I hate his fucking guts, Matthew hissed, the reason I'm stuck in this stupid place. Well, Magath is the one that has to be on the battlefield, so having the Eldians under him in peak physical form increases his chances at survival, Calvi reasoned. I hope he dies out there, Matthew declared. If you follow military protocol, then you should be able to get your freedom sooner, Calvi reasoned. Megatron rolled his eyes. I doubt that with him. I'm pretty sure he hates me too. You don't need to convince Magath, Calvi proclaimed, you just need to convince me. Megatron narrowed his eyes at Calvi. There was a possibility that this was going to lead to blackmail if he didn't do this right. The best bet at the moment was to cut off the conversation right then and there to prevent anything else from being said that could back him in a corner. I'll be sure to keep that in mind, Megatron stated. Later. I told you that you should have aggravated him, Falco hissed at Gabby as the 3 were about to exit the military compound. Shut up. Gabby hissed at him. Who knows what's going to happen to us now, Sophia sighed. Why couldn't you just leave it alone? Falco demanded. Before Gabby could respond, a staff blocked their way out of the compound. The 3 paled to see Matthew coming around the wall to reveal himself. He shut the book in his left and spun the staff in his right. Emma. I was told by Commander Calvi that I could use violence to get my point across with you 3, and that I wouldn't get into trouble for it, Matthew declared. The kids began to tremble in fear. They shut their eyes in fear, fully ready for Matthew to brutally beat them. What they didn't expect was for Matthew to smack each of them fairly lightly on the head with the staff. Not enough to cause a bruise, but hard enough to actually feel pain. They all yelped at the sensation and rubbed their heads. "Next time, when I tell you to leave me alone, do it," Matthew ordered them as he held the staff over his shoulder. Matthew opened the book once more and walked towards the compound. Gabby quickly grabbed the hem of Matthew's jacket, much to the horror of Falco and Zofia. Matthew shut the book again and turned to Gabby, irritated. He used the staff to push Gabby away from him. "Why are you kind to us?" Gabby demanded. "Why are you showing compassion to us? Why should that matter to you?" Matthew retorted. "Just now, you didn't beat us or break our bones," Gabby said. "You spared Eldians months ago instead of killing them." "You saved me and my brother," Falco added. "You treat us as if we're human," Zofia proclaimed. Matthew was silent for a moment. "I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Pike. When you realize that all humans are the same, violent, disgusting, and cruel, then the world is your oyster. You don't care about whether or not someone is an Eldian or not. People are cruel whether or not they can turn into titans. So all I see with you are a bunch of annoying kids." "So, you're not angry with us?" Gabby asked hopefully. "I'm annoyed, at best," Matthew responded. "So then, can you tell us about yourself?" Gabby exclaimed with excitement. "What's the coolest place you've been to?" Zofia asked. "Guys," Falco hissed with warning. "I said you guys were annoying at best," Matthew reminded. "Do not push it. Please, just tell us one story." Gabby insisted, "Maybe about one of your scars." "Gabby!" Falco exclaimed. "No," Matthew drawled out. "If you tell us, we won't bug you about it again." Gabby swore. "I doubt that," Matthew declared as he turned to walk away. "Please." Gabby clasped her hands together. Matthew sighed before turning his attention to the three. "You better leave me alone after this." Falco was startled while Gabby smiled with excitement. "Okay," Matthew began, "I got it a few years back. Maybe 2 years ago. I ran into an old acquaintance of mine. She was extremely sadistic and cruel. She used to collect the heads of her victims and hold them as trophies." Zofia grew tense while Gabby rubbed his neck nervously. "When I met her again, she wanted to kill me," Matthew continued. "Instead of killing me herself, she thought it would be a sick joke if she let one of her pets kill me. She had twisted beasts with sharp claws and fangs that could rip out a man's throat in seconds." Matthew showed the scar on his shoulder. "This was the result of my close call with the one she sent after me. I decapitated the beast, but the spider escaped." "Are all your scars from combat?" Falco asked. Matthew nodded his head. "You must have been through a lot," Falco concluded. Matthew hummed in response. "I'm sorry we asked about it," Falco apologized. "Now next time, you know not to ask again," Matthew proclaimed as he walked away from them. "Go home." Megatron heard their footsteps fade from the compound. He looked up to see Calvi looking down at him from his office with disappointment written on his face. Megatron didn't respond to the man as he walked back inside. It looked like he was going to have to tread lightly around him for a while. 2 days later. Aaron waited in his Titan form below the sea. His hair floated in the water, and the fish swam past his face. The teen sighed in the nape of the neck and looked up to see any signs of moving waters above him. It seemed that he could last underwater in his Titan form, and it wouldn't affect his actual human body. Although, it did feel like he was suffocating. Maybe he couldn't remain underwater for that long. But that wasn't his main concern. His concern was about the ships almost here on the island. The first ship was already compromised, and there was a second one on its way right now. If his memories were correct, then there should be that woman there. If it was, then I failed you. Aaron let the energon flow into his arms through his veins. After unlocking those memories with Historia, he had become more accepting of the new serum. Maybe it was because he now had some form of certainty, but he was still terrified of a future that was going to come. Why would he kill Optimus in that future? Maybe it was a sick trick? It didn't matter anyway. That wasn't real. He wasn't going to do that, it wasn't his objective. his objective was to destroy the enemy outside the walls. If he can do that and protect his family, everything else be damned. Aaron stood up as he saw the second ship coming into view through the water. When the ship reached a point where Aaron could grab it, he did. He swam and grabbed the bottom of the ship before standing on the sea floor. He lifted the ship out of the waters and heard the Merlians beginning to panic and yell in fear. The Merlians grunted as Aaron dropped the ship onto the shores of the island. They looked up in horror to see Optimus Prime walking up to the ship with his blaster drawn. "Drop your weapons immediately and raise your hands in surrender," Optimus ordered. "If you do not comply, I will be forced to use drastic measures." The captain of the ship grabbed his gun. "We will not bend to you, demon." The captain fired, but the bullet merely deflected off of Optimus' arm. Aaron growled and crystallized his fist, but Optimus raised his servo to tell him to stand down. "You are all outmatched," Optimus bellowed as he aimed his blaster and charged it. "Comply and no harm will come to the rest of your crew." The captain gritted his teeth and aimed his rifle to fire again, but one of the soldiers shot him in the side of his head. The body fell to the floor, taking the rest of the crew by surprise. Optimus blinked in surprise when he saw Yelena take off her helmet and bow. "Sorry for the delay, Optimus Prime, but we had some issues to take care of," Yelena declared. "Yelena, what are you doing?" a soldier demanded, causing the woman to aim her pistol at him. "Put down your weapons," she ordered, "unless you want us all to die." "Do as she says," Onyanko Pan ordered as other members of the Eldian restorationists aimed their weapons at the other Marleyan soldiers. They complied and began throwing their weapons into the ocean. "That was unnecessary," Optimus told Yelena. "He was willing to shoot you, who knows what else he could have done," Yelena reasoned. "There is another ship waiting nearby. So in a little bit, we need to send out a distress signal and lure them in to prevent an escape." Aaron blinked in surprise at the woman. It was her. It was that woman. He talked to that woman later down the line. If that was true, did that really mean that everything he saw was going to come true? Did that mean that everyone he loved was going to die? Aaron watched as Yelena turned to see his Titan form and smiled. "I'm glad to finally meet you as well, Aaron Yeager." Hanji provided a curtsy as the Merlians were escorted by the Survey Corps to the makeshift camp. "Welcome to the island of Paradise. We hope that you enjoy your stay. Don't worry, we will treat you as our guests of honor." The Merlians scowled and glared at them all, but they continued walking. Hanji turned her attention to Yelena and Okanyapan, who were escorted towards her with Levi next to them. "Just because you brought this aid to us, it does not mean that we can trust you," Hanji proclaimed. Yelena smiled. "I understand. Trust is something that is earned. I hope we can start by showing more of the weapons that we have on board the ship." Later, Hanji reassured, "For now, we need to discuss some conditions about your stay." Meanwhile, the Survey Corps watched as the Merlians were forced to sit down in a small group. Sasha looked ready to fall asleep, but Mikasa pulled on her hair to force her to stay awake. "Hey, Emir," Jean began, "is there a chance you remember any of the weapons that they had in Marley?" Emir shook her head. "I just saw basic rifles in an older ship. Not what they have right now. Although, the uniforms changed a bit. It used to be a dark blue, now it's a weird shade of gray." "Doesn't matter about the uniform," Aaron declared. "If they wanted to, they could have sent 10 times more than what they have right now. We have to do something about it." "Not much we can do right now," Emir retorted while Armin and Mikasa gave questioning looks. "The world still has the advantage." Aaron didn't respond to Emir's comment. He was being consumed by the thought of slaughtering Marley into the ground so that he could save the people he loved and... "Aaron, Emir," Optimus called out in his bipedal mode, "we need to secure the third ship." Optimus held out his servo to the 2 Titan shifters. Aaron easily climbed on while Emir struggled to do so, still not used to being around the Titan. Aaron saw that many Merlians were glaring at them. What confused him the most was that their gaze was more directed towards Optimus. The next day, Optimus remained on the sidelines once more as the meeting between the military branches commenced. Hanji began to read off the conditions set by Zeke and his followers, which included making direct contact with Aaron. Optimus was not sure about the idea. He was weary, and he silently agreed with some of the vocal opposition in the room in regards to aligning themselves with Zeke. It wasn't safe to trust him. He turned innocent humans into titans. He was willing to double-cross his parents despite their intent. Optimus lost control when he realized that titans were actually human. It was a feeling he never wanted to experience again. But, it's true, Eren spoke as he stood up. All eyes were now on the Titan Shifter. I remember that I was able to access the powers of the Founding Titan once, Eren explained. When I came into contact with a Titan of royal blood, it was the same woman that was my father's first wife, Dina Fritz. If that's true, Zeke is a descendant of royal blood. We can use this plan to stop the vow to renounce war, and activate the tens of millions of Titans dormant within the walls to flatten the earth in the rumbling. Silence radiated throughout the room while Optimus had a stunned expression on his face. Eren never told him this information. Why would he keep this secret? Because I didn't want to risk Historia's life on false information, and have her forced to become a Titan, Eren responded, responding to Levi's question instead of Optimus. It was a rash decision, but I wanted to make sure that the information was accurate. Optimus felt a sense of relief. He only wanted to ensure that Historia was safe. It wouldn't be wise to sacrifice the Queen of the Walls on a whim. But, the suggestion of using the rumbling still bothered him. Yes, it was brought up in previous meetings, but it wasn't necessarily something that was considered an option at the moment. That was something that he didn't want. He didn't want humanity to be crushed to death by the colossal titans. No matter how any of them felt about him. Marley. Calvi tapped his pen on his desk as Matthew walked into his office. Calvi lifted his head and saw Matthew close the door and cross his arms in irritation. What? Matthew demanded. Seems you didn't sleep well last night, Calvi remarked. I only get 3 hours of sleep, if I'm lucky, Matthew stated. Calvi raised an eyebrow. I'm sorry to hear that. Matthew grunted in response. Look, Calvi began, the reason I called you here is because of your treatment of the Eldians as of late. People will assume that you are an Eldian or an Eldian sympathizer. And I am telling you this from experience that they will be dead or turned into titans. I really don't care about that at all, Matthew responded. You shouldn't treat devils with kindness, Calvi declared. It doesn't really matter how I treat them, Matthew retorted, as long as you get your warriors. Calvi sighed as he leaned back into his chair. Matthew, I like you. I won't lie, but your treatment of the Eldians cannot stand. If this continues, then I will have no choice but to change the deal and keep you here even after this war. Calvi waited for Matthew to respond. The kind treatment of the Eldians couldn't stand. If it did, then more Eldians would believe in the pathetic notion that they had value. Monsters do not deserve value. Threatening Matthew's freedom would inhibit such treatment and prevent that from happening. Calvi narrowed his eyes as Matthew moved one of his arms to the doorknob. Matthew's fingers circled the doorknob before yanking it straight out of the door. Calvi shot up out of his chair as Matthew looked back at him with a tired and angry look on his face. Oops, Matthew shrugged as he dropped the doorknob on the ground. How dare you? You think you have control over me? Matthew demanded as he stomped over to Calvi. You have no control over me. I'm not like the mindless Eldians who will follow your every order based on a lie, or a Marleyan who believes in the glory of the Marley Empire. It's no secret that Marley military is falling to pieces and the failure of Paradis led to the war right now. You have no right to question. And if I wanted to, Matthew continued as he put his hands on his desk, I could break out of here if I wanted to and disappear without a trace. You'd never be able to find me again. I am fully prepared to fight for my freedom and kill you if I have to get it back. Killing me would lead to a death warrant on your head, Calvi threatened. You think that scares me? Matthew demanded, I've already died. There's nothing. It's cold, it's dark, it's empty. You think that I'm afraid of you when I've been dealt worse. Matthew stared Calvi down and got in his personal space. You have everything to lose. I have nothing to lose. If you threaten my freedom ever again, I will throw you out the window. Calvi wanted to retort, but all he saw in his eyes was a man who did not fear him or his authority. The man looked like he had seen the worst nightmares, and the fact that he is alive now meant that nothing could truly terrify him. He was a weapon, a machine, a monster. Understand that what you're doing right now is against the law, Calvi began, but you will kill me if I threaten your freedom. I can still punish you, make your life more of an inconvenience. Your insubordination will not stand. Calvi could tell Matthew wanted to strangle him, but the man took his hands off the table and walked away from him. Matthew pulled out a pocket knife and slid it through the crack of the door, opening it. Matthew didn't bother to close it as he walked back to his room. When he realized the coast was clear, Calvi slumped back into his chair and clutched his chest in fear. Paradise, neutral ship. So was no one going to bring up the situation about Aaron having other memories in his head, which led to him withholding information that we needed to survive? Levi demanded as Optimus continued trying to fix the tracker. We knew that Aaron was seeing his father's past memories, we just didn't think that it was vital information. We just thought it was the trauma Grisha went through, Hanji admitted, but I guess that explains his outburst in the courtroom when we first found out about this whole situation. What's to say the kid isn't hiding anything else? Levi questioned, what if he's seeing other memories but doesn't want to tell us? Maybe he doesn't want to tell us out of fear, Hanji assumed. We have to question him, Levi proclaimed. Maybe that was the only memory that was truly vital, Hanji reasoned. His father was an Eldian forced to live in one location for majority of his life before he was caught as a restorationist. Any information passed on to him by the owl is practically useless at this point. Marley most likely advanced in this time. Any other information that Aaron knows might be obsolete. I will talk to him about the situation later, Optimus informed without taking his optics off the device. Prime, why didn't you say anything about this? Levi demanded. You knew for the longest about Aaron seeing memories. Why didn't you say anything? Aaron felt like he could not discuss these memories with anyone because he believed that he would be burdening them or scaring them. He was afraid that Armin and Mikasa would be unable to understand what he was experiencing. I didn't want to pressure him into telling or tell anyone else on the assumption that he wasn't ready to share it. Just talk to him about this, Levi ordered, see if you can get anything else out of him. Understood, Optimus responded. So what do we do about the restorationists and Merlians on our shores? Levi asked Hanji. The restorationists should be placed at arm's length, Hanji answered, we can't trust them just yet. Merlians should go to prison, but transporting them might lead to an escape. That would need to be more organized. We could provide opportunities for Merlians to help in exchange for some form of freedom, but we have to ensure that the restorationists are trustworthy. So far we know that Yelena and Onyanko Pon are restorationists, but we need to accurately ID the rest and determine their numbers. We need to keep a close eye on them, Levi added, and we can't keep coming back to this falling apart ship to do that. This is the only access we have to advanced technology, Hanji reasoned. This takes half the day to get here from the campsite in the south, Levi reasoned, while riding with Prime. Optimus, I know that technology on this ship is limited, Hanji began, but isn't there any way to improve transportation? You explained to me about something called a ground bridge that could transport us anywhere on the world. Isn't there some time of plan to build one on this ship? There is not, Optimus answered, I already looked through the entire database, there was no such plan. Can't you build it from scratch? Hanji asked. Even if I could, I would need proper tools and an extensive amount of energon, Optimus explained. The supplies on this ship are not enough to lead to a stable structure to open a ground bridge. Energon could be wasted through testing, and even if we were able to create one, it would be unstable. The ground bridge could kill you. It can't be that bad, Hanji insisted. Mass displacement trauma, twisted limbs, metal burn, Optimus listed. Okay, I get it, Hanji groaned. Possibly being transported into another dimension where you cannot touch anyone, Optimus added. All right, I get it. Hanji exclaimed. The tracker suddenly glowed to life as Optimus screwed the wiring shut. Optimus picked up the device and saw the dial moving back and forth on the screen. Optimus directed the device to the liquefied energon, and the dial moved from the left side of the screen to the right. Does it work? Hanji asked with excitement as she climbed into Optimus' servo where the device was. She saw the screen and began to giggle with excitement. So this should help us how? Levi questioned. This will allow us to locate more energon pockets on the island, Optimus explained. Chapter 40, The Tybers. Yelena watched as Hanji inspected the controls for one of the Marleyan ships. Her hand grazed the buttons and dials before reaching a set of communication headphones. She picked it up and placed it on her head. So this allows for communications, correct? She asked. Communications from one ship to the next, Yelena clarified. It needs to be on the ship in order to maintain a stable connection. So, an obsolete version of what Optimus and Buckethead can do, Hanji assumed. Buckethead? Yelena questioned. We call Matthew Buckethead because his head looks like a bucket, Hanji shrugged as she took off the headphones. But what do you mean obsolete? Yelena questioned. Optimus and Buckethead have the ability to maintain wireless communication through something called a comm link. It's built into their heads and they can communicate for long distances. It's how we're able to gain information from Marley and the rest of the outside world so fast, Hanji explained. They've used this during their civil war. Yelena didn't say anything as Hanji began to inspect the radio the headphones were connected to. Is there a chance that we can take this out and see if this works? Hanji asked. We could probably make this wireless with Optimus' help. Hanji continued to mumble to herself, something about Optimus' lack of knowledge in technology and Buckethead having to stay in Marley. Yelena coughed aloud to get her attention, and Hanji turned her head to her. Sorry, Hanji apologized, we are grateful for what you brought us. We are happy to be of assistance, Yelena smiled, we do hope to see Eren Yeager soon. Hopefully to talk about him meeting with Zeke to determine how to access the powers of the Founding Titan. Well, Eren does have a busy schedule, Hanji reasoned, and we only just met you. Trust must be earned first. Understandable, Yelena agreed. Can you show me more of the ship? Hanji asked with excitement. Of course, Yelena answered. Hanji followed Yelena out of the control room while Yelena quietly sighed to herself. This was going to be a lot harder on her than she thought. Marley. Megatron watched as Gabby and Falco were fighting against one another with rifles in their hands, incorporating the techniques that he taught them. He didn't teach them how to completely perfect the move, so he could see them struggling and determine weak points if he ever had to actually fight them in battle. Matthew, when will I fight? Zofia asked him. You'll fight the winner, Megatron told her. As they continued fighting, Megatron noticed something out of the corner of his eye. He turned to see a Calvi walking alongside Willy Tiber with two personal guards at his side. Megatron wanted to duck his head and look away, but Willy noticed him and smiled with delight. Matthew. Willy smiled as he walked up to him, ignoring the concerned looks of the guards. Megatron took a step back from the Tiber as he almost hugged him. Willy recognized Megatron's discomfort and quickly backed off. Sorry, Willy apologized, I forgot you don't like physical contact. Gabby and Falco stopped fighting and the three children watched the conversation in shock. Sir Tiber, Matthew is busy, Calvi informed as he gave Megatron a look of warning, and we have some important business to discuss. Give me 5 minutes, Willy requested. Calvi sighed, knowing he couldn't defy the Tibers if he wanted to. He glanced at Megatron before making his way back into the compound. Matthew, how have you been? Willy asked. Oh, I don't know, Megatron mocked, I'm still a prisoner, and have been one for almost 6 months. Willy winced while the three Eldians grew horrified. Sorry, Willy apologized, things have been complicated on my end. I have to maintain positive relationships with other countries to prevent another war, and Calvi wanted to talk to me about Titan experimentation. This could be useful, Megatron thought. Suppose that he was grateful that he made contact with him. Reading the book on this world's history allowed him to determine the importance of the Tiber family. His ancestors turned on his own Titan brethren in order to help the Merlians defeat the other Titans. Because of this, he's been exalted as a hero. He still had to try to gain his favor to discover more of his secrets. I know that your freedom has not been at the top of my list, Willy sighed, before an idea came to his head, but you could come over to my home to discuss it. What? Megatron demanded. My schedule is free for tonight, Willy explained, You could come over and we can discuss ways to get your freedom back. I don't think Calvi is going to let me leave the compound, Megatron informed as he pointed to the commander. Willie turned to Calvi and pointed at Megatron. May I borrow him for the night? Calvi looked like he wanted to say no, but debated his options and relented. He's to be back here by tomorrow morning. Perfect. Willie smiled as he turned to Megatron. I'll send you a car, and I'll walk, Megatron interrupted, catching Willie by surprise. Are you sure? Willie asked. It might take some time. It's faster by car. It's fine, Megatron said. Well, if you insist, Willie relented. I'll see you tonight. Willie waved goodbye and walked back to Calvi and his soldiers. Megatron watched them leave before taking notice that the three children had their eyes glued to him. What? Megatron demanded. You're friends with the Tiber family, they all shouted. No, Megatron immediately shut down, we are acquaintances at best. He owes me a life debt. How did you meet him? Gabby exclaimed. Back to training, now. Megatron shouted at them. Paradise. Optimus began tracking the northern regions of the island for any energon deposits. He was at it for a couple of hours, but it yielded no results at the moment. There was no guarantee that the island would have more energon deposits because of its small area. There would probably be more on the mainland, but there was no way that they could investigate it undetected. It would be hard for Marley to stumble across an energon deposit, but he wasn't sure if he should rule that out as a possibility. Optimus sighed to himself. Perhaps it was best to return to base for the time being. Optimus transformed into his alt mode and drove south. Meanwhile, Yelena and Onyanko Pon were finally in casual attire, a white shirt with black pants and a jacket. The other restorationists were dressed the same way as a means for the Survey Corps to identify them better. Onyanko Pon had the plans for the port in hand as the two made their way to the tent Hanji and Levi were in. When they entered, Hanji was going over some plans for weapons while Levi patiently watched her work. Hanji noticed Yelena and Onyanko Pon and rolled up her plans before grabbing something on the table Yelena didn't notice until she grabbed it. I hope your stay is inviting, Hanji remarked. It's quite pleasant, Yelena smiled. We do have some plans we think might be useful to you, Onyanko Pon began as he showed the rolled up plans. The plans should be for later, Hanji reasoned. We just need to make sure everything is secure. We already have everything secure, Yelena retorted. The Merlians are your prisoners and you have their ships. That is true, Hanji agreed. However, what's to say that when the next Marlian fleet arrives, you wouldn't double-cross us? That you wouldn't release the Merlians we have in custody and hand Eren over to the enemy? That seems a little far-fetched, Yelena admitted. Maybe, Hanji shrugged. But it's not the craziest thing to happen to us. Yelena's mouth formed a thin line. Prove to us that you can be trusted, Hanji proclaimed. You seem to have no issue with trusting a being from beyond the stars, Yelena retorted. Onyanko Pon tensed as Levi glared at Yelena while Hanji cracked an unnerving smile. Trust me, Hanji began, Optimus has proven he's trustworthy. If he wasn't, he would have shot your ship when it was 50 miles out and let you drown. Onyanko Pon was shocked while Yelena felt a sense of dread go through her. They were spotted from that far away? Optimus entered the tent in his hollow form and noticed the tension between the two women. Is everything all right? Hanji saw Optimus and her face lit up with relief. You're back. Any luck? I wasn't able to find Energon in the northern region, Optimus explained. Hanji groaned as Optimus turned to Yelena and Onyanko Pon. Optimus nodded his head to Yelena before turning his attention to Onyanko Pon. I do not believe we formally met, Optimus noted. Oh, I'm Onyanko Pon, he introduced himself. My name is Optimus Prime, Optimus said as he held out his hand towards him. Onyanko Pon was surprised, but shook his hand regardless. If you require my assistance, I will be training Eren, Optimus informed Hanji. Wait, Optimus. Take a break. Optimus' hollow form dispersed into sparks, shocking Yelena and Onyanko Pon. Hanji threw her hands in the air. And he's gone. Prime is going to run himself ragged again, Levi said. Yeah, I fucking know. Hanji hissed. Wait, I thought he was invincible. Onyanko Pan questioned. Is that what everyone thinks? Hanji asked. Yelena ignored the conversation as she thought over what Optimus had said. The Titan trains Eren. He has direct connection to Eren. If Yelena wanted to get to him, she had to get through the Titan himself. Marley, Tiber residence. Megatron couldn't believe this. He couldn't believe this pathetic nonsense, yet here he was, standing in front of the gated residence of the Tiber household in the night. It was large and lavish, and he just wanted to burn it to the ground. Megatron looked through the gates to see no one on the front lawn. He then looked up to see two guards training their rifles on him. State your purpose, one of them ordered. Willy invited me here. Megatron shouted at them in his other vernacular. Like we'll believe that bullshit, another one said. Fine, I'll leave. Megatron told them, tell him I came by. I'll enjoy finding out about the reaction soon enough. Megatron turned to leave, but he heard the gates open behind him. Megatron turned back to see three people coming up to him. Two of them were guards, but the one in the middle was a woman. She wore a black dress with a white apron on top. Her hair was tied into a bun and she stared at him with her brown eyes. Matthew Hayes, the woman spoke. Matthew looked her up and down before raising an eyebrow. I'm pretty sure I've seen you before. I was on the train next to my brother when you saved my nephew, she explained as she grabbed her dress and curtsied. My name is Lara Tiber. Welcome to the Tiber household. She stood up to look him in the eye. Come. Willy is expecting you. Megatron wanted to complain, but he forced himself to swallow his pride as he stepped into the compound, following the two soldiers protecting Lara. Megatron looked at his surrounding as he continued to follow. The grounds were green and lavish. By human standards, it was well taken care of. The former warlord noted that there were about 8 guards on the front lawn. At least from what he could see. An unknown person entered the compound, who knows how many more were present. He would have had to do a thorough sweep of the place to identify them all. When he entered the palace, he found more guards spaced out and standing as still as stone as the 4 of them passed by. Megatron looked up at them and saw that their eyes stared straight ahead. Oh, he wanted to break them. Lara knocked on 2 large doors and patiently waited. The doors were opened, and Megatron saw Willy sitting at his desk, going over some paperwork. Willy looked up and smiled at the Titan. Matthew, you made it. Willy smiled as he got up from his chair. I wasn't able to say no, Megatron admitted. Calvi actually confronted him earlier that day and ordered him to go to the Tiber household. If not, he would do everything in his power to find every loophole to force him to stay. By the pits, he just wanted them dead. This is going to be a private matter, Willy told the guards and his sister. They nodded their heads and closed the door to the room. Megatron could still see their shadows under the door, indicating that they were close by. I hope this is going to be productive, Megatron remarked as Willy was rummaging through some cabinets. He pulled out a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses and placed it on the table. Would you like some? Willy asked. Not really, no, Megatron replied. Are you sure? Willy insisted, it's a good brand. I can't get drunk, Megatron admitted. Willy blinked before laughing in disbelief. When Megatron kept his serious expression, Willy stopped laughing. You're serious? Willy questioned, you can't get drunk. How is that even possible? It's a blessing and a curse, Megatron proclaimed, because of my lifestyle, I've built up a ridiculous immunity to it. I can drink as much as I want, but I can't get drunk. At this point, it's something that I despise. I feel sorry for you, Willy said as he poured himself some whiskey. Megatron's gaze turned to the papers on the table. In reality, Megatron found a little trick by disabling the portion of his systems that allowed him to get drunk. It was meant for protection at the time. The last thing he wanted was to be terminated because he was unable to properly defend himself. You do seem busy, Megatron noted as he tried to read the papers. Well, being the head of the Tiber household does have its ups and downs, Willy admitted, keeping up appearances and relations, especially during a time of war. The ambassador of the Middle Eastern nations has refused to talk to me. We are good friends, but his country comes first. Megatron nearly scowled as Willy gathered up his papers and stacked them into a neat pile before taking a drink. So, is there a chance that you can guarantee me my freedom? Willy sighed as he put the glass down. Calvi wants you to remain within the ranks. Megatron's eye twitched in response. What? It's not that I can't take you out, it would be a long process. But unfortunately, Calvi sees use with you. He's a stubborn man. If I try to react, he will most likely do everything in his power to counteract, Willy explained. It will take time, but if I can't free you before the war ends, maybe I can guarantee no one is able to touch you again. Megatron rubbed his temple in irritation. It was good that this would take longer than he anticipated. It would allow him to gather more information. The issue was managing with all of those humans for a certain amount of time. Is there a way that I can speed things along? Megatron asked. Maybe follow their rules, Willy recommended, please the commanders. I am not going to suck up to them, Megatron thought. He wouldn't let his pride allow it. Besides, he already threatened death on Calvi for threatening to keep him there longer than the agreement. Well, this was a waste of my time, Megatron stated as he turned towards the door. If you have anything useful, you know where to find me. Wait, Matthew. Willy called out as he stood up and got in front of Megatron. I would very much like to get to know you. That's not what I'm here for, Megatron retorted as he moved around him. Please, Willy pleaded, 30 minutes, at least. Megatron thought it over. Would the hollow form even last that long? He did have it on since the morning, so at least 12 hours have passed. And maybe staying here longer would allow him to learn who has the Warhammer Titan. Megatron sighed, as long as he didn't offer him any food. 30 minutes, only, Megatron told him. Willy smiled as he beckoned Megatron to follow him. Megatron saw Willy pull out another chair for him to sit in. Megatron grumbled to himself as he sat down. This was going to be a long 30 minutes. 30 minutes later. Illegal death matches? Willy questioned in shock. Yes, Megatron responded, that's how I learned to fight so well. The conversation felt like it went on for so long. Megatron lost track about half of what they were talking about, the former warlord lying about some of that information. One question led to another and the Tiber asked about his fighting style and how he learned it. So were you taught by someone in these death matches? Willy asked. No, I had to teach myself, Megatron answered truthfully. He couldn't really lie about his time in the gladiator arena. How did you escape? Willy asked, did anyone know you were even there? I escaped through what was essentially a riot, Megatron answered, and no one really knew I was there. I'm essentially a nameless orphan. No, mother or father? Willy asked in disbelief. My first memory was darkness, Megatron replied in a bitter tone, the darkness, dirt, and grime of the mines in Tarn. I'm sorry for asking such a sensitive question, Willy apologized. I'm assuming then you must be jealous of me. Megatron raised an eyebrow at that. I'm someone who was born into wealth and fame, Willy explained. I'm someone who was adored by everyone and heralded as a savior, but you, it didn't even sound like you were given a proper name. Megatron stared down in response. I'm not jealous of you. Willy seemed to sigh with relief. I'm angry with you, Megatron corrected. Willy tensed as Megatron glared at him. I've spent nearly every second of my life fighting to survive, and fighting for my freedom, Megatron explained. Meanwhile, you have lived a life of luxury and satisfaction. You don't know what it's like to struggle, feel pain, feel fear. You feel guilty about it too, like you can't do anything, when you have all that money and power at your fingertips. Instead you keep it to yourself while others struggle to keep their bellies full. Megatron stood up. But the thing I hate most about you, is that you will never know war. While you live a life of luxury for something you didn't even do, your Eldian brethren suffer. Forced to live through shame and humiliation and die for a country that would leave them to die if it suited them. You make me sick to my stomach, you hypocrite. That is rich, Unicron spoke from behind a stunned Willy, coming from someone like you. Megatron ignored Unicron and kept his attention on Willy. He blinked in surprise when Willy began chuckling. So you are an Eldian sympathizer, Willy remarked. No, Megatron declared, all of humanity, Eldia and Marley, is nothing more than pathetic parasites. Yet you still saved the life of a rich, pathetic, Eldian, Willie retorted, meaning that part of you still cares about humanity. Willie smiled sadly as he looked down. Even if I don't deserve it. Megatron watched Willie regain his composure and stand up. Sorry to end on such a somber note, but I would very much like to meet with you again. I just insulted you, Megatron reminded, why would you want to meet with me again? I think it's because, you see me as nothing more than a pathetic human, Willie answered, no more. No less. Later. Megatron was escorted off the premises by the two guards. Megatron turned to leave, but he felt a hand on his shoulder. He glanced over to see Lara removing her hand from his shoulder. What do you want? Megatron demanded, I already met with your brother. Lara handed him a roll of cash, causing Megatron to fully face her. I don't need your money, Megatron proclaimed, if this is a bribery, then that shit's not going to work. This is my thanks to you, Lara insisted, you saved my family that day, while I was unable to do a thing. You've done a great service by protecting the Tibers, and you have given me relief to know that my nephew is safe. Megatron pushed the hand of cash away from him. I don't need it. Please, Lara pleaded. No, Megatron shut down, I'll see you around. Megatron walked away from the Tiber residence. After walking for some time, he hid in an alley before deactivating the hollow form. Zeke wanted to close his eyes. He wanted to close his eyes and fall asleep, but he couldn't. He was sitting with the other officers as they were heading back to Liberio. The battle was a success, but the struggle to seize control of the battlefield was noticeable. There were only 3 Titans in use for the war, and the other 2 were currently being experimented on. He assumed that the Middle Eastern nations believed the 2 Titans were lost to Paradis, which wasn't that far-fetched. But he wasn't sure if they were aware about the origins of Optimus Prime and Matthew. He felt like if they were, their advancement of technology would become even more desperate. He just hoped that Matthew didn't cause that much trouble. Morning in Marley. Megatron walked through the streets of Liberio in the morning. He never took the time to try to map out the entirety of this city in the event something bad happened, so he figured that he could try to memorize it. He saw many humans walking in the same and opposite direction, many of whom looked at him with fear and disgust. He saw dirty humans holding large brushes. He saw vendors opening up shop and advertising products and food. Humans were opening up the windows of their apartments to dry their sheets and welcome the new day. Some humans were sitting and talking with one another while eating breakfast. He noticed a homeless man begging for money, but the other humans ignored him. Some pulled their sparklings away from the man. This place was surprisingly full of life. It was active and flourishing, and yet, he felt so alone. He was a stranger amongst a race he despised. If he so much as deactivated the hollow form, chaos would reign. He wasn't human. He was Cybertronian. He couldn't discuss anything with anyone. His thoughts, his feelings, his truth. And even if he did, they would cower in fear and call him a monster. Some already see him as one right now. Megatron found himself walking alongside an open field all alone. The grass was green and the ground was wet. He saw a primitive aircraft in a large warehouse, ready to be removed and prepared for liftoff. These humans kept on chasing the riches of this world and beyond, yet he already knew everything about it. But he couldn't share it. Not with anyone. Megatron continued walking along. He had no true, honest companionship. He knew he didn't deserve it, but the thought was beginning to weigh on him. I think it's because, you see me as nothing more than a pathetic human. He saw Willie as a pathetic human because that's what he was, but he could tell that Willie was happy to hear those words. Willie believed Megatron's actions were one of genuine kindness, and not as a means to an end. He didn't know the truth. He didn't know that Megatron despised all of humanity, and saw them as nothing more than a weak species. He couldn't say the truth, and for some reason it bothered him. Calvi waited by the gate for his army to return. They were scheduled to come back today, and he was pleased to know that the battle was a success, although there was some trouble along the way. It was frustrating to say the least. They had to ensure that the experimentations were a success before sending the female and colossal titan into battle. However, the state of the colossal titan has worsened. He was starting to question whether or not a transfer was the best option. Calvi blinked in confusion and disbelief as Matthew came walking back into the compound. He still looked irritated and tired, and when his eyes fell on him, the man nearly sneered in disgust. "Talk to me later," Matthew hissed as he passed him. He came back, Calvi thought. Matthew could have escaped after meeting with the Tibers. He could have left, and no one would have been able to stop him. But he still came back. Was it because it was the easier option? Was it because it was more inconvenient if he did leave and he was hunted down? Whatever the reason, maybe he did want to gain his trust. Suppose he'll talk to Matthew about the day-off situation. Paradise. Yelena rubbed her fingers on her knuckles as Onyanko-pan sat down to drink some tea. "This will be harder than we anticipated," Yelena proclaimed. "It's not like they were going to trust us off the bat," Onyanko-pan reasoned. "But they should have been enticed with us," Yelena retorted. "We have knowledge of the outside world. We've lived in it, but it seems that they don't care. But those titans ruined it all. They can't access the weapons and tools that they have," Onyanko-pan reminded. "But they can get the knowledge and information from them," Yelena told him. "Hanji was looking at the weapons I brought the first time around like it was second-hand knowledge, and she wasn't even invested in the wireless communication that we had. She said it was an obsolete method of Optimus and Matthew's form of communication. Because of those titans, technology means nothing to them right now." Onyanko-pan finished his tea. "We can always use culture as a means to gain their trust. I doubt the food Optimus eats is edible, even if he eats at all." "That's true," Yelena agreed, "but those titans prevented the plan from running smoothly." Onyanko-pan noticed Yelena clenching her fists in anger. He knew Yelena hated the metal titans, specifically Optimus Prime. She just didn't show it. She was fascinated with them, but her anger with them most likely had to deal with Optimus physically attacking Zeke and nearly killing him. Her devotion to Zeke ran deep, and at times it worried him. She always seemed to put him on a pedestal. She practically worshipped him. Zeke was considered the strongest Titan in play at the moment, but Optimus Prime and Matthew Hayes' existence practically destroyed Yelena's vision of Zeke. The strongest Titan on this world, and it couldn't even come close to Titans among the stars. "We still have to be careful," Onyanko-pan reminded. Yelena sighed in irritation. "I know. We must get to Eren Yeager. Marley." Zeke opened the door to his office and found Matthew on the couch reading a book. "I thought I locked the door," Zeke remarked. "Like a primitive lock is going to stop me," Matthew said in his regular voice. "So, what happened while I was gone?" Zeke asked. "The Tiber invited me to his home to discuss my freedom, Matthew. Around, your commander wants me around because he sees an apparent use for me. He won't let me go that easily." "Anything else?" Zeke asked. "Your followers successfully made it to the island," Matthew replied. "Are they okay?" Zeke asked. "As long as they don't start killing anyone," Matthew responded. Megatron watched as Zeke walked over to his chair and sat down before falling over on his desk. Megatron raised an eyebrow and walked over to the desk. He saw that Zeke had fallen asleep, his chest rising and falling with slow ease. Megatron glared at him. How easy it would be to end him. He couldn't be trusted. Something in the back of his mind was telling him to end his life. He wants to save Eldia? He doubted that. If he sold out his own parents to save his life, then he had no doubt he would be willing to betray his own comrades if it suited his needs. Megatron chose to walk out the room and shut the door. Executing him was a dangerous thing to do at the moment. He just had to bide his time. He could be patient. Marley Science Lab. All he could hear were voices. All he could see was a ceiling through one eye, and darkness through another. Or what he thought was darkness. It was dark shades of purple and black mixed together in one eye, and a ceiling in another. He couldn't tell what was real or not. He knew that he couldn't feel his arm anymore. He didn't think that he could feel his leg, or his side either. It was practically numb. Berthold blinked as he heard the door opened. Someone was coming in. He didn't know who. He didn't know where. He saw out of the corner of his eye that it was demonic. A demon. Someone was trying to kill him. He had to fight back. He didn't want to die. Meanwhile, the head scientist was going over a new sample of Berthold Hoover's blood, and suffice to say, it was terrifying. There was no Eldian blood. It was dark purple, it was all corrupted. There weren't even active cells. It was all just dead. The head scientist jolted as he heard a loud scream down the hall. He put the sample away and bolted towards the source. The head scientist watched in horror as the Eldian was beating another scientist to death. He nearly shit his pants as he saw the Eldian growling like an animal and yelling in aggression. There were purple veins everywhere, including the charred side of his body, and the eye on the charred side was glowing a dark purple. He screamed as he slammed another scientist into the wall before beating his face into the ground. "Restrain," the head scientist shouted in fear, "restrain him now." "How?" another shouted. Berthold turned and saw more people in his vision, but it was continuing to distort as he saw monsters instead of people. He tackled another one of these monsters to the ground and beat him mercilessly. He was about to go after another, but he felt a strong pain through his lower abdomen. He looked down to see a bullet wound through his stomach. He slowly turned and his vision cleared to see Commander Magath pointing a pistol at him. He had a strong look of disgust and fear within his eyes. Berthold tried to reach out for him, but Magath shot him in the eye that was completely purple. Berthold collapsed on the ground and blood seeped from his wounds. The scientists expected a fast regeneration, but the process was such a slow amount of time. "We need to close the wound," Magath ordered, "save the colossal titan. Now. We have to take precautions." "Then take it," Magath ordered, "the colossal titan's survival matters more." The scientists began to scramble to get their gear and save Berthold. Magath let the gun slip from his hand and clatter on the ground. Blood was coming from Berthold's mouth as the purple veins receded. "What the hell? What the hell?" Check the description for the links to the author.